Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the College Football Podcast. I'm Alec. That's Bradley. We have a lot to cover today on the show. Let's get right into it. First order of business we are going to cover today is and this just came out a couple hours ago. North Carolina has fired head coach Mac Brown. I am shocked by this. I thought he was going to retire. Did you think the same thing, or could you see the writing on the wall?
No, Alec, I agree with you, bud. I'm off this whole week from work, and I just got the notification on my phone that they had let him go, and they were 6-5. It's not like they had a losing season; they were going to a bowl game. I know they're not as strong North Carolina teams as they've been in the past years, but I agree with you. I thought that if he was going to step away from college football, it would be on his terms by him retiring. Unfortunately, I guess that's not it unless he goes someplace else to coach, which with all the job openings that could be happening during the offseason, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody doesn't snag him at least for one season before he hangs it up for good.
Yeah, I saw it when I was out at lunch with family today. I'm like, it just because I made a video earlier, I think it was last week, on coach openings that I could see during the offseason. And I said North Carolina was one, but I didn't say because Mac Brown was going to get fired. I said because he was going to retire and they were going to have to hire somebody else. So I'm shocked. And then we can also talk about the other firings that happened. Tom Herman gets fired at FAU. Are we surprised by that at all? I'm not.
No, actually, I'm actually kind of happy he did get fired after his little his little handshake thing with Alex Golish after we beat their, what's a couple weeks ago. So no, I'm not surprised at all. Let it be. From what I've heard, a rumor is that they want to hire Ray Lewis. So we'll see what happens.
Take a page out of the Deion Sanders
Correct.
material.
Correct.
But then I've also heard he got fired, but they're not going to pay his buyout. They're going to make him stay at FAU as a janitor.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Okay.
Because they don't want to pay his $4 million buyout.
Yeah.
That's just that. I'm sorry, that's petty.
You go to the penthouse to the you-know-what house and that quickly. So yeah, that's fine.
That's petty. That's paying the petty tax for me. That's paying the petty tax. And then Charlotte fired Biff Poggi, which, I mean, I think both of us could see that coming from.
Yeah, that happened after the USF game as well. After we beat them, from what I read on X, that he even showed up to practice the next day and didn't know he was fired. They hadn't told anybody. Shows up at the morning practice, and then they tell him, "Oh, by the way, you're not the coach anymore." So he kind of rallied the players together and said, "Hey guys, thank you so much for giving everything you have." And that's always nice too, to go to practice and go, "Oh, by the way, you're not the head coach anymore. Bye-bye."
But yeah, how does Trent Dilfer still have a job?
That's a shocker. He's another one that in the conference that should be fired as well. So yeah.
I think Mike Houston should still have a job. I feel like East Carolina let him go too early.
That one was a shocker because they didn't start off too well, but the last, the middle of the season to the end, they're going to go to a bowl game. They're bowl eligible. So yeah, I'm surprised that they fired him so quickly at East Carolina.
I don't get this one. How does Stan Drayton still have a job at Temple? They are awful.
There, I want to say no. I think FAU is the worst team in the conference. Temple at one time held that precipice, but I I don't know. I mean, I just saw something today that Jerry Jones is going to keep Mike McCarthy as a head coach in Dallas. So who knows? There must be some. Maybe the coaches have some information about the athletic director that he doesn't want it to get out. Who knows? Maybe he's got some inside information that we don't know about.
Well, because on my video I did last week, Temple was one of the schools I had getting a new head coach. I think honestly
And
with
it might
Drayton,
still happen. It might still happen.
I think they're waiting until the season ends, even though Temple's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Temple's not going to a bowl game, so what's the point of keeping him? And I guess that can lead us into our first segment: teams that need new head coaches.
Okay. I went
I
through. Go if you want to start, buddy. Go ahead. I got my notes right
I
here, but
only
go ahead.
have four. You probably have
Go
more
ahead.
than me. My
Go
first
ahead.
one's
Yeah. Go ahead.
Purdue. My first one's Purdue. I
Purdue.
think Purdue. I'm surprised Walter still has a job. I think regardless, if Purdue wins its last game, I think he's gone. Because it would make sense. Because earlier in the season, we talked about how they got rid of Graham Harrell, the offensive coordinator. So wouldn't it make sense to just wipe out the coach that was there and get a new one? Second one, FAU. We just talked about it a minute ago. Tom Herman, how he is. See you bye. Here's your exit slip. You're gone. Go find a new. Oh wait, go find a new job. But we're not going to pay your buyout. And then Charlotte, who we also just talked about, Biff Poggi. I wouldn't be surprised if we see somebody that's trying to get back into coaching take the Charlotte job. And then my last one is Utah. Kyle Whittingham. I don't think he's going to get fired. I think
Okay.
he retires. Because the rumor out there is that they already have his successor on staff. Don't know who it is, but that's the rumor going around, and that came from a reliable, credible source. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll let you go.
I'll stay within the American. I'm going to say Tulsa. They fired their head coach too after they lost to us. That was a nice 60-point performance last Saturday night at home to clinch a bowl game. Second year in a row that USF will be going to a bowl game. I don't even remember the last time I can actually say that. Fresno State is another one, buddy, that I had that needs a new head coach. Trying to go through all of my notes here because I got them all here. Because you mentioned Charlotte. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say this. I'm going to say UAB because you know what? I think Trent Dilfer's going to get the axe at the end of the year. So I got Fresno State, Tulsa, UAB. You know what? I'm going to go on a major limb. I'm going to say Florida State. Mark it down because the Florida Gators are going to manhandle FSU and they're going to fire Norvell right at the end of the year. You watch.
See, I want to see that happen, but the problem is Florida State going to be petty and not pay the buyout for Norvell, or are they going to suck it up and say, you know what, screw it, we'll pay the $70 million buyout? Because we've already seen it with FAU. They're not going to pay $4 million to buy out Herman. What is Florida State going to do? Are they going to pull the same bag of tricks and say, no, we're not paying Norvell to leave? You know what? I'll throw a couple bonus ones in there. I know he's in his first year as a head coach. Sharon Moore. I'm going to say slim chance, but I could see him getting fired. And I know Michigan fans are not going to like to hear that. And that's something I will get into later on because there's a little rant I want to go on later about Michigan because I know
Mm-hmm.
I'm not supposed to say it this week because we play them on Saturday, but later on in the
Mm.
show you'll hear me go on probably a minute 30-second rant about Michigan, but that's later on in the show. Anyway, and then another one is, and this pains me to say, Central Michigan. And it's not because Michael Lane's going to get fired. He is retiring at the end of the season, so they're going to need a new head coach. But now let's get to
Yeah, he
our
wants that. Jim McElhinney. Yep.
way too early bold predictions now, and I will start. I think,
Go, bud.
and if I'm right about this, come back to this episode of the podcast next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think Indiana is going to start 2025 8-0. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be recapping all of week 13 of college football in a little while, and you will hear what I have to say about Indiana. I know we beat them, but I have really good things to say about them. Number 2, I think Devin Brown transfers to Syracuse. He pulls a Kyle McCord and leaves and transfers to Syracuse for 2 reasons. He realizes he's not going to play at Ohio State because, one, Will Howard's gone. And it's pretty evident that Julian Sayin is going to be, and it's either going to be Julian Sayin or Aaron Nolan as QB1 next year. So Devin Brown realizes that he's not going to start, and he wants to play because he wants to bump up his stock for the NFL. And I appreciate his loyalty to Ohio State, but at some point you got to realize, look, I'm not going to play, so I got to go somewhere else. And then my second to last bold prediction for next year is, and I just mentioned his name a second ago, Ohio State's starting QB in 2025 will be Alabama transfer Julian Sayin. Ryan Day, I don't know why he just doesn't come out and say that Julian Sayin is QB number 2. He keeps saying it's Devin Brown. But we've all seen, and don't get me wrong, I like Devin Brown, but we've all seen that scenario. Julian Sayin, I understand he's a true freshman, but he needs to be getting more reps. And I'm going to put an example out there. If Ohio State's up by more than 20 going into halftime against Michigan this week, I think you bench Will Howard for the rest of the game so he doesn't get hurt. And we don't have a repeat of what happened in 2015 against Michigan with JT Barrett, because we were up. I don't remember by how much, but they could have taken JT Barrett out of the game and put Cardell Jones in, but JT Barrett does the QB draw and gets hurt, and then you have to bring in Cardell Jones. And I don't want that same situation to arise again, but if it does, I don't think it should be Devin Brown coming in. I think it should be the redshirt freshman Julian Sayin. And then my last bold prediction for 2025, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that would agree with me on this. The Big 12 chaos continues. And when I say chaos, look what's going on right now in the Big 12. We have three or four teams tied at the top for first place. I think it's 3. Arizona State, BYU, and Iowa State.
Yeah, I think those are the big 3. Yep.
Oh, no, Colorado. Colorado's up there too. Which on tomorrow's show, we will talk about teams we got wrong. But let me hear your way too early bold predictions.
For 2025, I would have to say there's going to be some conference shakeups. I wouldn't be surprised if you see teams change conferences again. I would like to see Air Force come to the American so that all 3 academies are in the American Conference. I know that's a long way to go because, Air Force is all the way in Colorado, and I think the closest team in the American would be Tulane in Louisiana. I think would be the closest team to that. I can see the Gators improving. I know a lot of people are like, you got to be kidding me when you say that. But they've got some big wins at the end of 2024 that even I didn't think they were going to win, beating LSU and Ole Miss the last 2 weeks. DJ Lagway, obviously, that's why you keep the head coach, because they get along with each other. You don't want to have a new head coach come in and then he transfers out of Florida. The Gators have landed another 5-star quarterback or something coming in. So the Gators will be better now. Go ahead.
Is it Trammell?
Yeah.
I think he's a 4-star.
4-star. I read up on that the other day. I can see Indiana continuing their success that they had in 2024. And I think it would be kind of cool if Army makes it in 2024 and then makes the college football playoff in 2025 as well. We'll have to wait and see. So
there's all your bold predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now we're going to talk about the 2 big flips in recruiting wise, which will lead us into where we're going to predict the rest of the top recruits go. We're going to start with Juju Lewis, who was committed to USC, but then the other day on the Pat McAfee show announced that he's flipped his commitment and he's going to Colorado. I'll let you I'll let you go first and explain why you either think this is a good move for him or why you think it's the opposite.
No, I think it's a good move for him. Obviously, we know that Shedeur is probably going to go to the draft. We all kind of know that. I think Shedeur and Travis Hunter are both going to be going to the draft, and they might be top draft picks in the first 5 picks. They might both go. Obviously, Deion's going to have to reload a quarterback, and this is a good move for him. And you know what? The hype with him is he's able, because of his name, he's able to draw players to Colorado. Now, he can also draw them now with this season. They've gone, 8-3 this year. I know they lost to Kansas, last Saturday. They are still a good football team. They're still a good football team. And, every team, every good team is going to have a bump in the road. Ohio State had Oregon. You're going to have a bump in the road somewhere where you're going to have a game that didn't quite go your way or whatever. So Colorado, they're going to draw these big names and these recruits because of Deion. Plain and simple. That's how it's going to go. I think it's good for him. Tell me what is better. I mean, obviously, if you want to look at, places, would you rather go to Southern California than Colorado? Of course. I think anybody would rather go to sunny Southern California compared to going to the cold in Colorado. But when it comes to football, I mean, do you really want to go to USC with a coach that's kind of on the hot seat, or would you rather go and be with Deion? So that's my point.
And I agree with every single thing you just said about that. I could see more people, more recruits flipping from USC to either Colorado, maybe Ohio State, maybe Oregon. And then the big one, Bryce Underwood. And I just saw this today. We know he flipped to Michigan, but people are out there saying that the NIL money package he got from LSU was quote unquote embarrassing. Which I'm going to start. First of all, how do these people know what the NIL money he actually got from LSU? Did you go and look? Because supposedly he's getting $10.5 million from Michigan. I would imagine LSU probably gave him around, rough guess, probably 11 or 12. But I guess he decided, look, I'd rather go to Michigan. And I'm sorry, Bryce Underwood, you're going to lose to Ohio State all 4 years. Because Sherrone Moore does not know how to develop quarterbacks. Look at Davis Warren this year. Look at Alex Orji. Look at Jack Tuttle. What have they done? Nothing. And you really think Sherrone Moore is going to be able to develop you into an NFL quarterback? Other than Tom Brady, name me one quarterback that's gone to Michigan that's had a good NFL career.
Brady Quinn.
Starting quarterback.
Other than Tom, no.
That's my point.
Well, we haven't seen the kid that just got drafted either.
JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, we haven't seen him yet with Minnesota.
But then yet Michigan fans, this is where I'm going to have my little rant before I talk about Bryce Underwood and what I think. Michigan fans, you need to understand, you can't talk about Ohio State's struggles with developing quarterbacks and putting them in the NFL. Because we put a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL. For one, two, some of them don't stay at quarterback. They go to other positions. Look at Braxton Miller. He was a quarterback at Ohio State, but then he got to the NFL and he became a wide receiver. Same with Terrell Pryor. Dwayne Haskins, I think if he didn't get into all that commotion in Pittsburgh, that he was actually turning his career around and he was going to probably be a half-decent NFL quarterback. And then people want to say the most recent one, Justin Fields. Chicago does not, the Bears don't know how to develop quarterbacks. If he would have went somewhere else, he'd be a starter right now. The only reason he's not starting at Pittsburgh is because of Russell Wilson. That's my little. Oh, and Michigan fans, you need to stop saying that Emeka Ibuka is not going to go for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns against Michigan this week. Will Johnson is not playing. He's out injured. And I think he's just opted out because he knows that if he has a bad game against Ohio State, that his draft stock is going to plummet badly. That's my little mini rant. But Bryce Underwood, I'm sorry, Bryce Underwood, but I think you made the wrong choice. I would have rather seen you stayed committed to LSU because they actually know how to develop quarterbacks. Look at Joe Burrow. Look at who's another good LSU quarterback?
The kid in Washington.
Jaden Daniels.
Yep. He was a
Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow. They actually, and then maybe Garrett Nussmeier, which people are saying he's going to be a first-round pick. I don't see that, even though he's had a good year. But look at those 3 guys. They all came from LSU. Well, Burrow was at Ohio State first, but he made the smart decision. He knew he probably wasn't going to play. He was in the same QB room as JT Barrett and Cardell Jones, which to this day, that still amazes me that you had all 3 of those guys in the same QB room, and 2 out of the 3 are in the NFL now. Well, no, JT Barrett's not, but but the other one is. But I think Bryce Underwood should have stayed committed to LSU. But that's going to lead us into we're going to go on a couple of different recruiting sites and look at some recruits that are undecided on where to commit to, and we're going to try to predict where we think they are going to commit. Oh, nope. And get off the screen. So we're going to first start with Jakeem Stewart, a defensive lineman out of Louisiana. Right now, his top 6 are Ohio State, USC, LSU, Oregon, Alabama. You can go first, Bradley. Where do you think he's going to commit? If you had to make a prediction.
I would say either the 3 that I would choose would be Ohio State, Oregon, and Alabama. And the only reason why I say those 3 is, or why I didn't say LSU or SC is, again, we were just talking about Lincoln Riley being kind of on the hot seat or not. He really hasn't done anything at USC since he left Oklahoma. LSU, Brian Kelly, I mean, a lot of people like him. I mean, he's okay. It's all right. I mean, if I was this kid, you're a 4-star. I mean, Alabama and Ohio State would make a lot of sense because of their defenses. Obviously, the SEC and the Big Ten, and Oregon is also in the Big Ten. But Oregon seems to be more to me of an offensive school. They like to run their offense a lot. So I would say Alabama or Ohio State would be my choices.
Okay, so here's, as you see on the bottom, it says Ohio State's warm, USC warm, LSU warm, Oregon warm, Alabama cool. I'm going to go and say I'm going to eliminate USC because why would you want to go from Louisiana all the way across the country to USC? Then, I mean, LSU to me would make the most sense. He's from Louisiana.
Yes. Right. Hometown.
So LSU won. Oregon, again, that's all the way on the other side of the country. But I could see that being 2. And 3, the issue is Ohio State has lost 2 defensive commits in the last 2 days. Because everybody's thinking that their defensive line coach, which is Larry Johnson, they think he's going to either be fired at the end of the season or retire. So that's why Ohio State to me is number 3. If I had to make a way too early prediction where he goes, I am going to say LSU. Sorry, Bama fans, you're not getting this defensive lineman. I think he goes to LSU. And let's go to another guy. Let's go to edge rusher, Javion Hillison. So his top schools are Syracuse, Florida State, UCF, Texas, Florida. But I saw something out today where he's taking an official visit to Michigan. And they're not even on his list. So out of these schools, give me 3 and then give me your prediction of where you think he goes.
My 3.
And he's from the state of Florida.
She's from Florida. Okay. I would say, okay, I'll you know what? I'll go with the 3 Florida schools. I'm going to go with the 3 Florida schools. I would say FSU, UCF, Florida. And out of the 3 of them, I'm a homer. I'm taking the Gators. The Gators need some help on defense. That would be great. But with him going to Michigan, that kind of, I mean, Syracuse, not really. And I mean, Texas would be a good fit as well. But if he wants to stay in the state of Florida, I'll take the Gators at the end of the day.
Okay, so I'm going to go along those same lines. I'm going to say that he does not commit to Michigan because they can't get everybody. I think Florida is one, Texas, and UCF. Even though I think Florida State and UCF are probably going to have new coaches. Because I think Gus Malzahn's another one that's on the hot seat. But if my prediction is, I think I'm going right along with what you said. I'm going Florida. I think the Gators need help on defense. So I'm going Florida. Let's see here. Oh, wait. Here's another one. So this guy has not committed to Notre Dame yet, but it sounds like he might. Madden, I don't even. I'm not going to even try to pronounce that last name. I don't want to butcher it. But he's from San Juan. He's from California. And his top schools are Notre Dame, Texas, Washington, Ohio State, USC. And right now, the recruiting website we're on, 24/7 Sports, says 100%. So it sounds like he's probably going to commit to Notre Dame. But let's make a pitch and see if we can, because I know some of these people might watch the show. Let's see if we can get him to flip and go somewhere else. I'm going to go first. So the three schools, I think Notre Dame obviously is one. Two is probably Ohio State, and three is Texas. And he is a linebacker. Mr. Madden, I think you should flip to Ohio State because you would have a good chance of being a starting linebacker next year for Ohio State, because the only two linebackers that are coming back for Ohio State next year are Cody Simon and Avril Reese. And you would be a starter at Ohio State. Not saying you wouldn't be at Notre Dame, but I think you would be a starter, and you would be learning from one of the best linebackers that Ohio State ever had, in James Laurinaitis, because he is the linebackers coach at Ohio State. So I think you would be learning from one of the best linebacker coaches in college football. Now, go ahead.
I was gonna say, but I'll agree with you on the three, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State. If he's from California, obviously we talked earlier about USC. That's not Washington. I'm not sure. The only reason why I would say Notre Dame over Ohio State is because, again, Notre Dame doesn't play in a conference, and I think they're one of my surprise teams this year because I didn't think they were going to do all that well, and they've gone out and beat Army and Navy. The two teams that run the triple offense. And I know they lost to Northern Illinois. That's their one loss this year. But every other game that they've played, they've done well. So that's the only reason why I say Notre Dame. That reason. But Ohio State would probably be my second pick, and then Texas would be the third pick. But you make a good point about Laurinaitis being one of the best linebackers at Ohio State, probably one of the better linebackers in the NFL too, before he had to hang it up. But I mean, yeah, either be Notre Dame or Ohio State would be my top two.
Okay, let's see if we can find. We're not going to do any of the guys that are committed because I don't see there being an opportunity for any of them to, unless they really wanted to flip their commitment. It does seem like Ohio State's dominating. I agree. Let's see. They're looking for somebody else? It's not committed yet. Come on. Oh, right here. This is one of the guys that decommitted from Ohio State. Zaire Mathis, a 4-star edge out of Pennsylvania. And I don't see any Pennsylvania schools on his on his list. I see Ohio State, Alabama, Boston College, Cincinnati, and Colorado. I'll give you my 3 first. I think Ohio State's still probably in the lead. I'm going to make a surprising pick here and say, I know I dogged on Bill O'Brien before the season, but look what he's done with Boston College. I think he can flip this kid and get him to come to Boston College. And then the last one, sorry, Cincinnati fans, it is not you. It is your conference rival, Colorado. And I'm going to say my pitch to get Zaire Mathis to flip his commitment from Ohio State, which I still think he's going to commit there. But if he doesn't, my pitch to him to go to Boston College would be, look, it's just like Ohio State in the fact that you're going to be playing in cold weather. And I don't know who their defensive line coach is, but you would probably be a starting edge rusher for Boston College because they got a guy right now that is going to go to the NFL. And I don't know if they have his replacement currently on the roster. And then same thing with Colorado. Colorado could use all the help they need on the defensive line. Now let me hear your 3 teams.
Yeah, I'll go with the same. I'm going to throw Alabama in there. I'm going to say Ohio State, Alabama, Colorado. I think the kid, it looks like, according to the website, that he's kind of committed to the Buckeyes. But I would say, again, we were talking earlier about Dion and his name. For some reason, he has the draw for these kids. So I think out of the 5, other than Ohio State, I think Colorado would make the most sense for him to go there. Again, you're Coach Prime and all that stuff. So that's who I would predict him. If he doesn't stay with the Buckeyes, I could see him becoming a Buffalo.
Okay, now we got another linebacker. And it looks like he's all but 100%, according to this website, committed to Michigan. But he hasn't officially put pen to paper yet. Nathaniel Alsoyu Boateng. His top 3 are Michigan, Ohio State, and Colorado. But you flip Colorado and Ohio State. Colorado's number 2, Ohio State's number 3. I am again going to pitch for him to change his commitment and flip to Ohio State. Nathaniel, if you're watching the show or you're going to watch the show after it's not live, here's my pitch to you to come to Ohio State. You will be learning from one of the best linebacker coaches and linebackers to ever play at Ohio State and in the NFL, James Laurinaitis. And again, like I said about a guy a couple minutes ago, you will be one of the starting 3 linebackers for Ohio State next year because they are losing a guy to the NFL. So you will then, as a freshman, most likely get to be a starter. Let me hear your 3. I feel like you're going to probably go along the same lines.
Yeah,
he's from Florida. He's from Florida, and he doesn't have any Florida schools on his list.
Well, the thing, again, you're from Florida. Why would you want to go to California? It's the same weather. Sorry, but it is. I've lived in Florida all my life. It's the same weather, other than it's, I guess they call it dry heat out there. They don't have humidity like we do in Florida. Texas, yeah, that's extreme heat. You're talking about dry heat, so no. The other 3 schools you're going to play in cold weather. You're going to play in cold weather in Columbus and Ann Arbor and in Boulder. You're going to play in the cold weather in those three anyway. I mean, he looks like he's committed to Michigan. It would take a lot for him to flip to the rival, but who knows? I mean, you never know, man. I mean, he could be watching the show. You make the pitch to him, and he may end up switching and going to the Buckeyes. That would hurt Michigan a lot, obviously, because that's your rival. But it's happened before, so it wouldn't be a shocker. But I would say my top two would be Michigan and Colorado. But we'll see how it all plays out. Looks like he said he's already hasn't put pen to paper yet, but it looks like Michigan's going to be the one that gets him.
Let's see. Can we find anybody else? Oh, right. Okay, here's another one. Anthony Turbo Rogers, running back out of Montgomery, Alabama. And he is 88%, 86%. Everybody has 86% in favor of him going to Ohio State. And then there's 14% for him going to Alabama. So I will let you go first with your pitch to either have him stay with Ohio State or go somewhere else.
Well, it looks like too at the bottom of the screen he's got Georgia as another one. Again, it's easy to pick the SEC and or Big Ten. I mean, that's the no-brainer. I think a lot of kids know that that's pretty much the top of the food chain as far as that goes. If he's already got 86%, I mean, they have predicted him to go to Ohio State. I don't know why he would commit to Georgia unless Kirby Smart just absolutely knocks his socks off and gets him to come to Athens. I mean, either school, whether he does go to Ohio State or Georgia, I would love to see him go to Georgia than over Alabama just to stick it to the tide. But I wouldn't be surprised if he stays at, because if he goes to Ohio State or Georgia, they're going to have a chance. He's going to have a chance to win a national championship in one of the 4 years. So, if not more than one, maybe a couple of them. But I'm just saying between those two teams, it looks like he has Arizona State and Arizona. I don't know why you'd have. I mean, yeah, but I don't know if I would go that far.
Okay, so like you just said, he's 86% leaning towards going to Ohio State. I think he's going to commit to Ohio State. But I'm going to make a hot take here. I don't think if he doesn't go to Ohio State, I don't think he's going to Bama. Because you know what happens. They have running backs that go there and they never play. Then they transfer. Same with Georgia. I think the other school that people, and they're really low on them and they're doubting him, the other school that people need to watch out for, Arizona State. Kenny Dillingham. I understand this guy's from Alabama, and you might say, you're crazy for thinking he's going to go all the way out to Tempe. I don't think that's crazy because Scotabo is going to be, I think, going to the NFL this year. So they're going to need a running back. And I think Arizona State would be my number 2. Number 3 would have to be Georgia. Then 4 is Alabama, 5 is Arizona. So I'm sorry, Alabama fans. You need to learn to suffer. You've had it too easy for the past decade with Nick Saban. So I think he's going to commit, but I think you're right. He is probably going to put pen to paper to go to Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Unless DeBoer comes out and just knocks his socks off with NIL money. Is there anybody else we can find out here? No, then we'll go to another one. I don't see anybody. Oh, wait. Signed. Okay, so we will try. Let's try ESPN 300. So now we go to Justice Terry, defensive tackle. We're going to pull up his list. of schools. He's got Georgia, Florida State, Alabama, Texas, Arkansas State, Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, Miami, Oregon, South Carolina, Penn State, Tennessee, Texas A&M, UCF, USC. He is not committed anywhere yet. He has visited 4 of those schools.
Where is he from and what position does he play?
He's a defensive tackle from Georgia. He's from Georgia.
Georgia, okay. And you said, but what were his top 5? What were the top 5 that he had listed down?
Georgia, Florida State, Alabama, Texas, Arkansas State.
I would say he just stays home and goes and plays with Kirby Smart at Georgia. That would make the most sense to me. He would have a chance again to win national championships. That would make the most sense to me for him to go play in the SEC. Florida State, I don't know. Mike Norvell, that's a question, but you never know. I mean, it looks like on the last website, I saw a lot of Seminole logos up there too. So Norvell's got some commitments already at FSU, but we'll have to see.
I'm going to say, first, before I make my pick, why is Arkansas State even in consideration for him? He's a 4-star. Come on, man. You want to play in the big time. You don't want to play in, don't get me wrong, the G5, group of 5 is good. Arkansas State, no. I'm going to say he goes to Texas with Coach Sark and is on the defensive line as a defensive tackle at Texas. Texas and Georgia would make the most sense. And then maybe you could throw Alabama in there as the 3rd team. Florida State, that's a who's who of, we don't know who the coach is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, we just did Stewart. We did Stewart on the other website. Let's see here. Michael Terry. Four-star athlete. Nebraska, Texas, Texas A&M, Oregon, Baylor, Duke, Georgia Tech.
Is he from Texas?
He is from, yes, San Antonio.
I would think the most sense would then will go to Athens. Nebraska, I mean.
You mean Austin?
I'm sorry, Austin. Nebraska, that's a long shot. I mean, again, it's not out of the realm of possibility, but that's a long shot to Nebraska. So I would say he stays at, moves from San Antonio to Athens to Austin, excuse me, and then stays at home in the state of Texas. That would be my prediction.
I'm going to say Mike Elko, and I don't know what position he's going to end up playing, but I'm going to say he goes to Mike Elko and Texas A&M because that's still in the state.
Mm-hmm.
He's from San Antonio, which I don't think is that far from
College Station.
Yeah. Logically, his top 3 for me should be Texas, Texas A&M, and Baylor. Why is Oregon on there? Why is Duke on there? Why is Georgia Tech on there? And then if you go further down, Notre Dame, Missouri, Oklahoma, Venables might get fired, even though they just beat Bama. Purdue. Really, Purdue? You're about to fire your coach and you're trying to get a 4-star recruit.
And they're gonna get manhandled on Saturday by Indiana. So
yeah. Make that make sense. Oh, wait. It doesn't make sense. I don't think it does. 4-star defensive tackle, Isaiah Campbell out of Durham, North Carolina. He's got Clemson, Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn, Charlotte, Duke, East Carolina, Florida, Florida State, and Georgia. And he has only made 2 official visits, Tennessee and Clemson.
I'd say he ends up in Tennessee. If that was his first choice under Josh Heupel, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where he decided.
No, Clemson was his first official visit.
Oh, was it? Okay. Well, you know.
See, but the thing is, do we think Dabo's going to stay, or is he going to retire? Is he going to leave?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have much more of a chance to have a better future under Heupel in Tennessee than you would if Dabo does hang it up at Clemson, and then you got to start from scratch with a new head coach. Yeah.
And you might like what I'm about to say. I'm going further down the list. I'm going to say Florida. I know he's from North Carolina, but it's not crazy to think that somebody like him can't end up with Billy Napier at the University of Florida. I don't understand why Okay, so we've got where he's going to commit. Let's get teams off this list that we know for sure shouldn't even be thought of in his recruitment. Charlotte. And you could say agree or disagree. Charlotte.
No, I agree. The only reason because he's from North Carolina would be the only reason why that would be on there.
East Carolina.
No, I agree. They should be off.
Louisville.
I mean Louisville. That's Kentucky. Maybe. I mean that's a maybe. That's on the fence.
Georgia Tech.
Agree.
Georgia.
Agree.
Miami,
I'd say agree because again, if you go to Florida or I guess you go to Gainesville or South Florida, that's fine too. Coral Gables.
I was gonna say North Carolina State.
That would stick it really hard.
Well, that is in Durham, right?
Well, that's right.
Or is that Raleigh? No, I think that's Raleigh.
I think NC State's in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then Chapel Hill is where UNC is at. I mean, again, that's a fence one for me too.
It pains me to say this. Ohio State shouldn't be on there. It really pains me to say that Ohio State should not be on there. That's way far out in left field. Oklahoma, see you bye. Penn State. Now, thing is Franklin still going to be the coach there next year?
I think he is. But I mean, that's again, I think that's what you said, buddy, earlier about Ohio State. That's a far fetch for him to go all the way from North Carolina to Pennsylvania. But again, it depends on NIL and it depends on what kind of stuff they give him to go to school there. So
Rutgers.
No, that's really far out there, and right, that would be a shocker. You're going from North Carolina to New Jersey. Wow, that's a big jump.
Yeah, South Carolina.
Maybe that would be it would stick it to NC, but I mean, you never know.
USC.
Ooh, that's going across the country. Some kids want to do that though. Some kids say, you know what, I grew up here. I want to see what the other coast has. So, but again, Lincoln Riley, do you really want to go where there's a questionable, like you were talking earlier a bit about Dabo and all those guys? You don't want to go someplace where there's a questionable head coaching change that could be coming.
And then the last two, the Virginia schools, UVA.
I mean, out of those two, but I could see him maybe Vautech over Virginia. There's no reason. Vautech would be the would be that my choice out of those two. If that
and then UVA is another one where They don't. I know Tony Elliott's done good this year, but they might still. There's still the outside chance that Tony Elliott does get canned after the season. I hope people realize that. And then people are saying the same thing about Brett Pry at Virginia Tech, which I don't. I briefly talked to Brett Pry when I was in Blacksburg after his post game thing. He seems like a really nice guy. I don't understand why Va Tech would want to fire him. That just doesn't make, because people are saying going into next year, if they lose out, that he could be on the hot. He could be one of the coaches that's on the hot seat going into next year. I don't. What do you think? Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think people are just looking for things to talk about?
I think some sports writers out there, but are looking for a headline. You like you said, you got a chance to talk to him when you covered the game. No, I mean, until we hear it from a reliable source, someone that's within the team. I mean, I went and asked a question to the guy that hands out the communications director at USF. I asked him, what's the status on Byron Brown? We haven't seen him. He's been hurt. There's been a rumor that he transferred, that he's not going to play anymore until the end of the year. He's transferring out of the program. And the guy's like, no, he's back in practice. He was in pads on the sidelines. He didn't play this past week, but he's back in pads. So until we hear from a reliable source within the university, they're just looking for a headline.
Okay, now we are going to recap Week 13 of college football. We're going to recap every game from college football, starting with the games during the week, all the way down to Saturday. We're going to give you our thoughts and what we thought about the game. And first, we're going to start with, we're not going to do top 25. We're going to start with a game that, quite frankly, was probably the ugliest game of the week. Akron and Kent State. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, again, I mean, look at the records of both those teams. Not a shot. I mean, Akron's one of those teams that hangs around, for a while. So my thoughts is that the right team won. I mean, you look at the final score, 38-17. I mean, let's look into that. But yeah, I mean, not a wide opinion on that game.
All I'm going to say is congratulations to Akron. You won. Akron fans, you have something to cheer about in a bad year where your coach is probably going to get the old ticket that says, sorry, your office has been emptied. You are fired. Good luck in your future endeavors.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm gonna flip over to the other side. Kent State. I have so many negative things I can say about Kent State, but I'm not going to. I understand you're 0-11, but at least show some fight. Score more than 17 points. And Western Michigan, Central Michigan fans, I feel bad that you had to watch this awful, sad, pathetic game. I will let you go first.
Well, I'm happy for Jim McElwain. Obviously, we did earlier in the show, we did mention that he is going to retire. And these are like the little battles within the state of Michigan. And then, of course, we have, I mean, at the end of the day, these two schools, obviously, they're rivals. Again, they're not Michigan. They're not Michigan State. They know that. The big brother, little brother of the state, however you want to throw it out there. If you want to call Michigan State the big brother, which I don't know how you can, but that's just me. And I'm not from Michigan, so I wouldn't know. But I mean, at the end of the day, happy for Jim McElwain and Central Michigan at the end of the day.
You know what? I'm happy for Central Michigan too. Even though this to me, I watched maybe 10 minutes of this game. It was a absolute snooze fest. It was the most boring game of the week. Miami of Ohio and Northern Illinois. I'm going to go first with this one because what a turnaround from Miami of Ohio. Starting the season 0-4 to winning 7 games in a row. And I understand Northern Illinois is not particularly good, but Miami of Ohio, they started 0-4, like I said, and look at the turnaround. 7-4. They were talking about Chuck Martin being on the hot seat. I think it's safe to say that he saved his job big time. And look at Brett Gabbert. Brett Gabbert did have an interception, but he also threw for 200 yards, 207 yards. What do you think?
I got to see Miami of Ohio last year at the Cure Bowl. They lost that game. And I got to meet one of their student photographers. I'm very happy that they've turned their season around. And, Northern Illinois can have that in their season. So we're the team that beat Notre Dame. But again, at the end of the day, happy for them. And again, like you just said earlier, Bud, they were 0-4. Their coach on the hot seat, 7-4. I think he saved his job. So I agree with you on that. Happy for Miami of Ohio.
Buffalo and Eastern Michigan. Why don't you start us in this one?
Well, again, Eastern Michigan fits in there with Western and Central Michigan. Buffalo's a good team. Obviously, they won 37-20. Again, yeah, go Buffalo.
Congratulations to the Buffalo Bulls for winning. And it's going to be an interesting last week of the MAC season because you've got, I think, 3 or 4 teams tied for second place. And they have no idea who's going to be in the MAC championship game. So that's why we love college football. There's always chaos in more than one conference. And we'll talk about that other chaos in a little bit. But Ohio and Toledo. I'm going to say something. I picked Toledo to win this game. And to all the people that watched that video last week, I am sorry that we picked Toledo to win. It was a mistake on our part. We should have gone with Ohio. Let my co-host give his.
Yeah, no, Ohio is one of those teams too in the MAC that has played very well all season, and they deserve to win the football game. Toledo will have to go back to the the drawing board and start over again next season in the MAC. So yeah,
the ugly showing by Toledo, and I don't think this eliminates them from making the MAC championship game, but it might put a wrench in it because this was my prediction in the preseason for the MAC championship game was Miami of Ohio, and Toledo. And Miami of Ohio's held their ground so far. But Toledo, it looks like they might be falling flat on their face and missing the MAC championship game. Now we get to NC State and Georgia Tech. And I watched basically every second of this game. It was a wild game, to say the least. And Georgia Tech had the ball with 40 seconds left. I'm like, and first of all, congratulations, Georgia Tech, on winning, for one. 2, I didn't think with 40 seconds left there was any chance Georgia Tech was going to score. They drove right down the field and scored. They were trying to go for 2 to make it a 3-point game, but they missed the 2-point conversion. And then NC State gets in field goal range, and their kicker just shanks, horribly shanks, a field goal. And Georgia Tech was one of my sleepers in the ACC this year. So at least that's something I got right with the ACC, because everything else with the ACC for me is toast. I had Vol Tech going to the ACC championship game, and I'm going to have to admit that I missed big time on that. What is your thoughts and opinion on the Georgia Tech North Carolina State game?
Yeah, I think Georgia Tech has been one of those dark horse teams that a lot of people didn't have doing very well this year. Obviously, they who did they beat in they beat Florida State. Oh, there we go. That's a good way to start the season. You beat the Noles, who they were not supposed to beat. They probably weren't supposed to beat NC State either. So congratulations to the Yellow Jackets. I got to see them a few seasons ago when I first started covering USF football. They were here at Raymond James Stadium. But I mean, they, being a dark horse, sometimes, you have that bulletin board material that we all hear about in the locker rooms, and maybe they're like, hey, coach goes, hey, they don't predict us to do anything this year. Let's go out and shock the world, and they have done that in a few of their games this year. So happy for Georgia Tech.
Now we go down to the Friday games. UNLV and San Jose State. I think we can both agree on this. It seems like UNLV doesn't need Matthew Sluka.
No,
they just keep trucking right along without him.
Correct. Yep.
9-2, ranked in the college football. No, not in the playoff rankings. Ranked in the AP poll, which we could go over that after we're done with the recap. Because I have some choice words for the people that put out the AP poll. We're going to keep it PG, but let's just say I'm not thrilled with the AP poll. But anyway, congratulations, UNLV. You showed us that no matter who your quarterback is, you can win. You still can win. And that's all I have to say on that. Let me hear what you have to say.
No, I agree with you, Bud, on everything that you said about them. Obviously, they had their quarterback transfer out, and he thought, I guess, that the grass screener on the other side. Well, they're doing it without him, so happy for UNLV, still winning football games without him.
You see the next game.
UTSA and Temple.
First, I think we should both give our opinions on Temple. Temple, just Canada, and you're not going anywhere. Just forfeit your last game. You're 3-9. No, 3-8. Fixing to probably be 3-9 after you lose your last game. UTSA, everybody was picking you to be at the top of the American. Not first, but like right in that top four. What happened? I understand you. Congratulations on the win here. But what happened to the Jeff Traylor we remember from last year? Let me hear your opinion on both UTSA and Temple.
I think, Temple, obviously, they're on the bottom of the American, and like you said, they probably will finish the season 3-9. I think UTSA had too many changes that they were not prepared for. I know they were up there, like you said earlier in the season, with the likes of Tulane and Memphis. Army wasn't even discussed as far as being in the American Championship game. Obviously, we know it's going to be Tulane and Army when it's all said and done. But yeah, I think UTSA probably had a subpar year, and not saying that they're not going to be back. I want to say I think they play USF in Tampa next season, so I'm excited to see UTSA here next year in Tampa.
Okay, Michigan State, Purdue. I'm going to start with Purdue here. Ryan Walters, I'm sorry, buddy. Pack your bags. Your office is being emptied as we speak. You will be gone at the end of the season. Unless Purdue somehow gives you a one more season, which it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to do that because I think they've had a lot of injuries this year, which could play a factor into them giving Ryan Walters one more year. Michigan State. You're right on track with where I had you in the preseason. Now, can you quickly look up who Michigan State's last game is?
Sure.
I had them going 5-7 in the when I did my Big Ten stuff before the season.
Let's see. Big Ten. They are at home, buddy, against Rutgers.
Come on, Rutgers. Come on, Rutgers. I really want to be spot on with Michigan State's preseason projection. I had them, but I feel like something tells me Michigan State's going to beat Rutgers. But Michigan State, this was kind of what I expected. Jonathan Smith, good head coach. He's got the plan in place here to have Michigan State fans, I want you to listen very closely. We've talked about you a lot on the show this year. You have a very bright future. There's nothing to be ashamed of if you go 5-7 this year. Now, what do you have to say about both Purdue and Michigan State?
Well, being that I have a buddy of mine who is from Indiana, he was down here a couple weeks ago. I got the chance to talk to him, and he went to Purdue, but he's a Hoosier fan. Bleeds red and white. So he's thrilled to death about the Hoosiers being as good as they are. He told me that he doesn't really pay too close attention much to Purdue. So let's leave it at that. But Michigan State, yeah, if they go 5-7, obviously, if they can pull an upset and beat Rutgers, both teams have finished 6-6 because the Rutgers is 6-5. So both teams would finish 6-6 on the season, which means both teams would be bowl eligible at the end of the year. But again, like Alex said, guys, you should be happy if you're in Sparty World. You're 5-7. That's good. It's a foundation of where the program could be going, and being at 5-7, you could take it as a positive and say, okay, 5-7 this year, next year 6-6, maybe the year after that 7-5 or better. That's the way you can lay your foundation for your future, and I think it's very bright in Sparty World in Michigan State.
Now, can we say the same thing in Orlando about UCF? I'll go first here. This was a game between two teams that had head coaches that are on the hot seat. And it seems like Neil Brown, at least for the rest of this year, has saved his position as head coach at West Virginia. Now, and congratulations, West Virginia, on this win. Now, UCF, I think Gus Malzahn is as good as he's got his next papers waiting for him in his office. They will be having a new head coach. What do you think?
Well, I couldn't be any happier for the failure in Orlando. That's just that's USF's rival, has been for a long time, and I couldn't be any happier for their failure. I didn't say that out loud. I did. Okay. Anyway, I'm happy
both of us.
I'm happy for West Virginia. I was talking, Bud, on at the USF game on Saturday, and they were talking about if UCF had won this football game, and USF now becoming bowl eligible with the win that they had on the win on Saturday, that they would play each other in the what bowl game? Not the Roquia Quest Bowl. I forget the other one. The other one that's in Raymond James Stadium, Gasparilla Bowl. they were talking about possibly them playing, and I'm like, that would be great because then we can beat them and shut them up. Well, wait a minute, we can already shut them up because they're not going to a bowl game. So UCF, you may
if they win their last game, maybe.
are they
Sometimes they do take 5 and 7 teams and put them
okay?
in bowl games if there's not enough teams that are 6 and 6 or 7 and 5.
UCF has who are they playing? Oh, they have a bye week. They're done. They don't have another game. I don't. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking in. Jesus, I'm looking in the wrong conference. My bad. I'm looking in the American. That's right. They're not in the American anymore. They're playing Utah. Yeah, they're playing. Yeah, they have to beat Utah on, and they're playing on Friday, Black Friday. So yeah, they have to beat Utah.
You know what? Sorry, Utah. We'll talk about Utah in a little bit in our recap. Now we get to the big game of the week, Ohio State, Indiana. I will let you go first.
Not surprisingly, again, I was watching this game at the USF game because we get to watch all the other college football games on TV there. Not surprising. Indiana's not quite, they are a good football team, but they're not quite elite as far as Ohio State, Oregon has been this season. But again, they just signed their head coach to a huge extension. He seems to be the right fit in Indiana. There's bright. I mean, when you go 10-1, and I think they'll finish 11-1 because I think they're going to pound Purdue this Saturday coming up. For that to happen, unbelievable. And they have to be one of those teams. If Signetti's not up for Coach of the Year, if he doesn't already win in Coach of the Year, I wouldn't be shocked to say that right now. But to go 11-1 and maybe possibly get Ohio State again in Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship.
No, it's going to be Oregon.
Sorry. I forgot the Ducks are in.
But they might get them in the playoff, which after we go over the AP poll, we will talk about our playoff predictions. But, okay, so I'm going to start. First of all, Indiana fans, you have nothing to be ashamed of. You had a really good start to the season. You're maybe 1 or 2 years away from being back up to the same level as Ohio State. And to the Indiana fans and all the media that said Ohio State ran up the score on that last touchdown with the QB sneak, no, that's called college football. That happens from time to time in games. And then Ohio State. This was the most dominant Ohio State's like all year. And I think if they play this way against Michigan fans, please close your ears. I don't want you to get butthurt by this. I think if Ohio State plays like this against Michigan, Ohio State's putting up at least 60 against Michigan. And they might not give up anything. Now we get to Kentucky and Texas. And I'll let you go first with Texas and Kentucky.
Well, I just got to say one thing in Texas. Welcome to the Arch Manning era because it's time. Quentin Ewers got hurt. It's time. And I'm sorry for everybody that's a Quentin Ewers fan in Texas and Austin, but it's time for Arch. And the writing's on the wall. I think Texas, I'm not sure, are they in the SEC championship game? I'm assuming that they are.
No,
no?
The winner of Texas A&M is in the SEC championship game.
Okay, so that's this Saturday. Okay, it's going to be a tight game, obviously, against those two teams on Saturday. But it's time for Arch Manning. As far as Kentucky goes, welcome back to mediocrity the way you were before the last few seasons where you got a little high on yourselves and you thought, oh, we're taking the next step. You're still not in the level of a Georgia. You're still not in the level of a Tennessee. And I'm even going to go on a limb and say you're not in the level of a Florida either. So you're in the middle of the pack in the SEC. And now with Oklahoma and Texas being in there, You're in the middle of the pack again. So welcome back to the middle of the pack, Wildcats. You're just focus on your basketball team. You'll be better off.
Starting with Kentucky, I think this all but solidifies that. Sorry, Kentucky. Mark Stoops ain't your guy. He's going to either get fired or they're going to agree to mutually part ways. Because, like Bradley just said, they are mid at best in football. Now, Texas, I watched a few minutes of this game, and you said that Ewers got hurt.
Yes. That's what I thought. I read that I read that he got injured.
If that's the case, then yes, it is time for Arch Manning yet again. But I think that Ewers is going to play regardless and against A&M. But I think if they make it to the SEC championship, well, regardless if they make it to the SEC championship, he's probably going to play. Because if they win the SEC, they'll get one of the top 4 seeds, which then means they will have a week off before they have to play their first playoff game. So Texas is officially back, folks, if they weren't already. Penn State and Minnesota. I'm going to start here, and Penn State fans, I'm sorry. Y'all are the biggest frauds ever in college football. How do you almost lose to Minnesota? You only beat them by a point. You almost let Mr. PJ Fleck row the boat beat you. Minnesota, you're going to a bowl game. There is nothing to be ashamed of here at all. You're going to a bowl game. And if you win your bowl game, you could finish 8-5 because you play one more regular season game. And if you win that, you're 7-5. Then you win your bowl game, you're 8-5. And PJ Fleck is off the hot seat. I will let you go now.
No, I agree, Bo, with you again with the Penn State thing. I agree. I mean, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't College Game Day in Happy Valley earlier this year? I think they were. I could be wrong.
Yes, for Penn State, Ohio State.
Yeah, when you only win by 1 point over, I think, a inferior team in the Golden, and I know Minnesota is going to a bowl game. But again, they're inferior to Penn State. They're not an elite team. And Penn State's probably close to being elite. They're with the Oregon. I mean, they're right there with, they're in the middle of the Big Ten at best. So I wouldn't put Minnesota in that category. But again, PJ Fleck, if they win on Saturday and then they win their bowl game, he's there for another season. And the Golden Gophers will have to worry about replacing their coach. So,
Army, Notre Dame. Oh, and we can also, after this, we can go over the AP poll and the playoff poll and predict with the playoff poll where we think teams are going to be ranked. Because I think that comes out tonight. Yes, that does. But Army, Notre Dame, I'll let you go first.
Notre Dame has the recipe to stop the triple option offense. Obviously, they play Army every year. And Jeff Monken and them the Knights had no answer whatsoever. And they beat Navy earlier in the year, they beat Navy. But, again, at the end of the day, it's cool to see Army only have one loss. I don't see them losing. I don't know who they have this Saturday who they're going to play. And, of course, they have their Army-Navy game, which I think they'll beat Navy. That's just me going on a limb and saying that I think they'll beat Navy. Notre Dame, obviously, their one loss to Northern. I know we discussed that earlier. I just think that Jeff Monken, once Notre Dame was able to stop them offensively, they don't have the defensive firepower to stop Notre Dame on offense. And you could see that's why they won by, 35 points at the end of the day. So The Irish know how to beat the triple option offense.
I'm going to say this. Navy, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Really good season. It's just hard to stop Notre Dame. It's plain and simple. Then we go down to the most laughable game of the week. Oklahoma, Alabama. Alabama fans, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing knowing that you lost to a mid Oklahoma team? First of all, and congratulations, Oklahoma. You've had a rough season in the SEC. Your first season in the SEC has been rough. But you go out here and you beat a top 10 Alabama team. And probably, and I say that with big time emphasis, probably knock out Alabama out of the playoff because they will not be going to the SEC title game. Actually, they won't be going to the SEC title game. And I think the only way you get in is there's absolute chaos this week and next week in Conference Championship week. But Alabama, again, you've lost 3 games this year. You lost to Vanderbilt, lost to Oklahoma, and you lost to Tennessee, I believe.
Yes. Yep, they lost to Tennessee.
So you lost to 2 Tennessee schools and Oklahoma.
No, I'm sorry. They beat Tennessee. Alabama beat Tennessee 2 weeks ago or a week ago. Something like that. Yeah.
Then who was their third loss? Georgia?
Hang on a minute, but let me look that up real quick. Let me see who Alabama.
Because I don't want to get knocked on for giving. I know they lost to Vanderbilt, and I know they lost to Oklahoma. I'm trying to figure out the third loss.
Let's see. Go here. They lost to. Okay, so we go back. Let's see. They beat Western Kentucky, South Florida, beat Wisconsin. They beat Georgia, lost to Vandy. I'm sorry, they did lose to Tennessee. My fault. They did lose to Tennessee. They lost
So
to
I was
Tennessee.
right. So Vanderbilt, Tennessee, and Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, correct.
Then again, like I just said, there's a possibility you could still get in the playoff, but you need a lot of help now because you're not going to have that elusive conference championship. What do you think of this game?
Well, there is always, and I've heard Nick Saban say this plenty of times on College Game Day. Now that he's an analyst there, and now he can talk about Alabama. I've seen him many times say that he thinks that they play down to their competition a lot, and I think this game was a kick in the balls because they played down to Oklahoma and they got beat, and now, like you just said, their playoff hopes are now in jeopardy. You have the Iron Bowl coming up this weekend. Auburn, would love to knock you completely out of the playoff picture. And being that game, and I'm not from Alabama, but I've known people that have worked in Alabama around this game. One of the deepest rivalries with the Michigan-Ohio State game as well. One of the deepest rivalries in all of college football is the Iron Bowl. And either you are for the Crimson Tide or you're a Tiger, you're not both. And when they meet each other, they hate each other. So again, Auburn would love to knock Alabama completely out of the playoff picture by beating them this week in the Iron Bowl. And I think Auburn's at home. So they'll be playing in Auburn at this week.
Wake Forest and Miami. I'll let you go first with both teams. You can choose which one you want to start with and then which one you want to finish.
Yeah, Wake, the game started close. And then Miami, it's Miami. Cam Ward, one of the top players, decided not to go to Florida State, decided to go to Miami, and he made the right choice. Or maybe we'd be talking about FSU right now being the top team in the ACC. So no surprise here. Miami is, on their way I think they're going to be in the ACC championship game against Clemson. Who are they playing?
No. SMU's clenched.
So it's is it SMU in Miami?
No. So the caveat is here. If Miami beats Syracuse, it is Miami SMU in the conference championship game. If Syracuse beats Miami, it's SMU Clemson in the ACC championship game.
Okay, so the Mustangs are awaiting either Miami or Clemson. Okay. Yeah, then
I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to say I apologize to people that dogged on me in the preseason for saying Kim Ward is not good. He's good, but I don't know if he's going to win the Heisman.
I don't think so.
I think Genty might win the Heisman or Travis Hunter.
I would say either between those two. I agree.
Now we get to, and I know Bradley's going to be, I can already see it. He is smiling ear to ear about this. Florida and Ole Miss. I'll let you take this one first, buddy.
This game shocked me to no end, and so did last week's game against LSU. I told, and earlier when I first started doing the show with Alec, that I didn't think that Florida was going to win any of the final, I think, 5 or 6 games of the season, and Billy Napier was going to get fired. It was going to be a foregone conclusion, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the year, I don't know what happened in Gainesville. They either didn't quit on him, they started playing for him or whatever, and it was so nice to see Jason Dart throw an interception, have it called back, throw another interception, have it called back, and then finally, the third time, it was actually an interception that was elite and gave the Gators the win. They're bowl eligible, and I really honestly believe they are going to rip FSU a new hole this week. I see them scoring 50 to 60 points on FSU, and I would love to see them fire Norvell as he exits the stadium in another embarrassing loss in the Florida State rivalry. That's just me.
What about Ole Miss?
Ole Miss, that's another team that, again, I think I had them pretty high in the SEC this year. I think I know that they've gotten rid of the West and East conferences and all the conferences. They've gotten rid of those. Ole Miss is one of those teams that's on the cusp of being elite in the SEC. And that's just me saying that out loud. I think Lane Kiffin, he's a crazy coach at sometimes, but he gets the kids to play. It's not going to be a shocker if the team is back next season again, being elite with the likes of Texas and Georgia and Tennessee, if they're not in that top 5 next season in the SEC conference. So Ole Miss, nothing to be ashamed about. Yeah, you lost to Florida. Oh, well, get them back next season, when if they play each other again. Because I think the Ole Miss, it's every other year that they play the Rebels. I'm not sure, but nothing to be ashamed about Ole Miss. They just had a bad game, and Florida won at home. It's tough to beat the Gators in the swamp.
I'm going to start with Ole Miss. Like you just said, nothing to be ashamed about, Ole Miss. You're still going to make a bowl game, and you're probably going to get to take your frustration and anger out on Mississippi State. Because Mississippi State, and we'll get to it in a few minutes, they are not particularly good. To put it nicely. And in Florida, I was wrong on you in the preseason. I said that y'all were only going to win 3 games the entire season. And good job. You proved me wrong. Now, I'm going to make a prediction here. I'm going to say I'm probably going to have really high expectations for you next year. Please don't let me down. I am fully prepared, and I'm sorry to say this, Bradley. I'm fully prepared to be disappointed. Here's another game that was a laugher. UMass and Georgia. I thought UMass actually had a chance, but no. UMass, you're another team that is just gosh darn awful. 21 points the entire game, and you let Georgia almost hang 60. Georgia, The only issue I have with Georgia is Carson Beck. Which Carson Beck are you going to get from game to game? Carson Beck against UMass, 4 touchdowns, almost 300 yards passing. That's UMass. What are you going to do against Georgia Tech? What are you going to do in the SEC championship game? What are you going to do in the playoff? Are we going to get the Carson Beck we saw for 4 weeks where he's throwing interceptions or fumbling? Or are we going to get the Carson Beck we saw at the beginning of the year where he was Mr. Unstoppable, throwing touchdowns left and right, not turning the ball over? And I'm going to say one more thing. Nate Frazier, Georgia running back, 11 carries, 126 yards, 3 touchdowns. I did, for a couple weeks in the preseason, I did hidden gems on YouTube and Patreon, and he was my hidden gem for Georgia because I thought he was going to have a big impact, and it seems like towards the end of the season, he has. So, but I'll let you go ahead.
Well, UMass wasn't the American. They went independent, and you can see why. They're not. It's not a football school at the end of the day. That's a basketball school at the end of the day. And this is one of those games that, Georgia puts on their schedule, those cupcake games as they call themselves. And I think that's it. And yeah, I agree with Alec. I think we will have to see what Carson Beck we get moving forward. Georgia Tech is probably going to put up some points on Saturday. This is not going to be the typical Georgia Tech game where the Bulldogs dominate. Georgia Tech can put some points up. They can score points, and they can stop you from scoring points. Don't be surprised if that game is closer than a lot of people predict it to be. And then again, if they already lost to Texas already this season. That's probably who they're going to be playing in the SEC championship game. So what is going to change? Is Carson Beck going to show up enough to where they can beat Texas? We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's no surprise that they almost hung 60 on UMass.
Now we get to Tennessee and UTEP. UTEP, why did you even show up? 56-0. Now, then again, UTEP's another team that is horrid. Didn't even score a point. UTEP, you have a lot to look forward to next year. Just get ready for next football season. Tennessee. Where was this Tennessee earlier in the year? Nico, only 23 passing attempts, 200 yards, 4 touchdowns. But now they got Vandy next week. Be careful, Tennessee. Be careful. Don't overlook Vanderbilt, because if you do, you might just end up like Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion about Tennessee and UTEP?
Yeah, UTEP's just like UMass. Again, it's one of those things where these schools get paid by these schools to come to Georgia, come to Athens, come to Knoxville to play them. And I am not the biggest fan of the University of Tennessee, as I've stated many, many times on many of my shows that I've done. They're my least favorite team in the SEC, but they are an elite football team. And they, again, just like Alec just said, don't overlook Vanderbilt, because Vandy's won some games this year, and it's not like they're just a cupcake game anymore. Now, they're not an elite team, but they're not a team that you can overlook, so that should be an interesting game.
And I'm going to say this before we go to Boise State, Wyoming, Tennessee. You may want to watch film on Vanderbilt quarterback Diego Pavia. Because if you're not careful, he may carve you up for 300 or 400 passing yards. Now we get to Boise State and Wyoming. This, as you see, it was a low-scoring game. And I watched some of it, and they were talking about during the entire game. They were just talking about how It was very windy in Laramie, which I've heard Laramie not a fun place to play if you're a visitor. Because one, it's cold, and two, it's normally half the time it is a really cold game and it's windy. Perfect example, look at the score of the game from Saturday, 17-13. Boise State, you're probably going to win the Mountain West. Then what you have to hope for is absolute carnage with probably the top 12 teams. I mean, we can predict how far Boise State's going to move up after we're done with this when we look at the rankings. But I think Boise State might move up maybe one or two spots. But still, they're going to need, if they want to buy, they're going to have to win their conference and hope there's chaos in front of them. Wyoming. I think your coach is probably going to be gone, and you're probably going to have a new coach. And that's simple. What do you think?
No, but I agree with you on everything that you said. And you're right. Boise State's going to need some help or chaos to happen if they're going to get the bye. It's pretty cool that Gentry is. I don't know how many yards he is away. I don't think it's possible for him to break Barry Sanders' single season rushing record in college football.
I can look that up right now.
Yeah, I think he's like 200 or 300 yards away from, and that would be, would be great to see him run for 300 yards, but that's a lot to ask for one, and somebody who probably is on the verge of winning a Heisman Trophy. And if they're in
2,062 rushing yards.
Okay.
And you said he needs.
I'm not sure where what his yardages are and what's Barry's.
That I'm not sure of either. I just know he has over 2,000 yards. But it's been a great year for him.
Mm-hmm.
Now we get to SMU. Are you looking it up?
Yeah, hang on a minute, bud. Hang on. Let's see if I spelled that right. Let's see. Barry Sanders. Okay, so he's got Barry Sanders is 2.628, and Gentry is
Gentry.
He is at
2,062.
Yeah, so he's got.
Take into account he's got one more regular season game. If they win that, the conference championship, then a couple playoff games.
He's 568 yards away. That's a lot in 2 games. I mean,
but he's rushed for 100 at least 5 times this year.
I mean, it's in the realm of possibility with the game, and then of course, obviously, if the bowl game as well, because I guess it was regular season or season overall. So if they counted Barry's bowl game yardage, then he has a shot. I mean, you think 252 and change, 280, he might be able to pull it off.
Then we get to SMU and Vanderbilt. And I want to give you props. You talked about Kevin Jennings earlier in the season. He ended up being the starting quarterback. And look at SMU. They haven't looked back. And I'll let you go first since.
Well, I want to congratulate SMU. Again, they were in the American last year. They transferred to the ACC, which I didn't even know they had transferred conferences until I flew to Las Vegas, flew into Dallas, and saw that they had moved to the ACC. So I didn't even know they had moved conferences. So congratulations on being part of the ACC championship in your first season in the conference. Yeah, they were a good team in the American. So that the transformation has been damn good for them. Virginia on the other, it's Virginia. Do I read 5-6? Is their record, or is it 3-6?
5-6.
So Virginia
3-4 in the ACC.
And I'm assuming Virginia plays Va Tech this week, right? Is that?
Yep.
this week. Okay. Um, but congratulations to the Mustangs. I hope. Actually, you know what? I hope they win the American, or I'm sorry, win the ACC and get into the playoff as the ACC champion.
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I hope they get into. They deserve it. BYU Arizona State. This was one of the wackiest games of the year. Arizona State thought they won, and then the referees put 1 second back on the clock. And I don't know if you watched any of it. The
I did not.
Arizona State coach, Dillingham, absolutely blew a fuse. He blew a gasket, and just they put 1 second back on the clock just so BYU could throw a Hail Mary. And this is the Big 12 chaos we were talking about earlier. And so Arizona State's now tied for first place with BYU and a team we will talk about in a second. But BYU, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Your second year in the Big 12. You're 5-2, 9-2, 6-2 in the Big 12. You have a lot to look forward to. And again, BYU, I didn't put them on teams I got wrong, but I was wrong on their win total. I said they were going to win less than 5 games, and there's another team that's proved me wrong. It's the same with Arizona State, which I will talk about Arizona State tomorrow. But go ahead. You go.
No, again, this is one of those games that you looked at the weekend and you thought, okay, if BYU wins, they're in the driver's seat in the Big 12, and Arizona State shocks the nation. And I think between them and the next game we're going to talk about, Auburn, I think they both got fined by the NCAA for the students running on the field to celebrate after the game. But no surprise. I mean, again, BYU has nothing to be ashamed about. You're in the second year in the Big 12. You're 9-2. Nothing to be ashamed about that. So congratulations to Arizona State on the win. And yeah, I can understand why as a head coach, you lose your marbles with having him add 1 second on the clock, because it could have ended up costing you the football game. So I'd be just as upset as he was.
Texas A&M Auburn. What a game. 4 overtimes. I turned it off when Auburn was up 21-0. I'm like, there's absolutely no way that A&M makes a comeback, let alone puts up 41 points. A&M fans, nothing to be ashamed of here. You see, Mike Elko is a heck of a head coach. And you just ran into an Auburn team that wanted, plain and simple, wanted this game more than you did. And they needed it because they need a chance. This gives them a chance now, if they beat Alabama, that they can go to a bowl game. And the fact that it took 4 overtimes, I bet there's people that were asleep by the end of the game.
No, yeah, no surprise again there. And again, both of these teams now go into games at the end of the season that they're going to give both of the other teams something to think about. A&M's going to give Texas fits. And Auburn, like you just said, if they beat Alabama, they can become bowl eligible. And not only can they be bowl eligible, they can knock Alabama out of the playoff all the way around. They would love to do that to their rival. So congratulations to the Tigers. Like you said, they wanted it more at the end of the day. And A&M put a hell of a comeback up there, but fell short by 2 points.
Colorado and Kansas. Now, we could both say, where was this Kansas team early in the season?
Well, but I think sometimes it comes down to who you're playing against. And I know there was some frustration. I think I saw Shador push an official or whatever happened during the game.
Let's talk about that for a second. So he
Go ahead.
pushed the official. How does he? Last time I checked, you push an official, you get disqualified. And they were saying on the the commentators were saying he is lucky that the officials didn't disqualify him.
Yeah, I'm surprised, but that didn't happen. And I didn't get a chance. Did anyone ask Dion in the press conference why he didn't get disqualified? Because I'm curious if somebody in the media asked him, during the press conference after the ball game, how did Shador not get thrown out of the game? Is it because he's your son? I mean, was there something behind that? You know what I mean? Like, is he college football royalty where he's not doesn't have to follow the same rules as everybody else? I mean, I'm just asking that. I don't know, but I think Kansas thought, hey, they're going to run over. They think they're going to run over us. Well, they're not, and we're going to prove it to them, and they did.
Look at what I'm going to say. Look at Devin Neal. 3 touchdowns, 200 yards rushing, and 80 yards receiving. He's probably going to be a high draft pick in the NFL. Maybe second, maybe third round. And then the big one is Travis Hunter. 2 touchdowns. I'm doing a mock draft later tonight. He needs to, I think for him, it's going to be really hard to decide what he wants to do in the NFL. Whether he wants to be receiver or defensive back. I think he needs to be receiver. Because there's no way he's going to be able to play both ways in the NFL.
He won't. No, he won't in the NFL. Because he's lucky he gets to play both ways now at Colorado. So, no, he won't play both ways in the pro level. No way.
Then we get to another game that the next 2 games just don't make sense. Clemson and the Citadel. Clemson, I think, is actually good. Even though they have 2 losses, I think they're good. And the Citadel was just there to get paid. A lot of money.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say, yep.
And same with Wofford against South Carolina. As some of us like to say, these 2 games for Clemson and South Carolina, these are tune-up games for each other.
Yep.
Which I think I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say South Carolina Clemson is probably going to be the second best game of the week. The first one is going to be, I think, Ohio State, Michigan, for the reason of Ohio State's going to put the belt to the you-know-what of Michigan after the last 3 years. Utah and Iowa State. First of all, I think this is probably going to be it for Kyle Whittingham. I think he's going to retire. We don't know for sure, but congratulations on a great coaching career, Kyle Whittingham at Utah. What do you have to say about Utah before we get to Iowa State?
Yeah, I think Utah, you hit the nail on the head, bud, with that. I think it's been a good run. I mean, Cam Rising, I don't know if he's going to be back for his 9th or 10th year in college football next season. But I'm happy to make my co-hosts laugh. But happy for the Cyclones. I think are they in the Big 12 championship game? Are they in there?
They're one of the teams that's in that
in the hunt
cluster of 3 that are 6-2.
Okay. So obviously, if they beat Iowa Saturday, then they're in.
I don't know who they play Saturday. Iowa State.
Do they already play Iowa already?
Yeah, they played them earlier in the season. That's one of those weird rivalry games. That's like the second or third week of the season.
Let me see who Iowa
State.
Iowa State. They are in the Big 12. Oh, they're at. Oh, wow. they're at home against Kansas State, who's 8-3. That's going to be a good football game.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good football game this weekend. So,
right,
yeah.
I'm going right along with you. I think Iowa State, they're good. Got a tough test this week against Kansas State. They win that, they are in the probably in the Big 12 championship game, and then it's going to be I wonder what happens if all those teams lose and all three of them end up with 3 losses in conference. How they determine who goes to the.
Good question. That's a good question.
That's going to be a mess. I mentioned how we were going to talk about Mississippi State. Missouri, why did you have to do that to Mississippi State? Why did you almost hang 40 on them? Why?
Well, I had Missouri in the SEC championship game at the beginning of the year, and they've proved me very wrong. They've had some bad games, and Mississippi State is, again, near the middle or the bottom of the conference. So not surprising, with that. So Mississippi State's got Mississippi this week. So we'll Ole Miss, so we'll see how that all plays out.
I'm going to say same thing. I didn't have Missouri in the SEC championship, but I have them in the preseason. I have them in the top half of the SEC. So, and as you can see, oh boy, was I wrong. Mississippi State, nothing to be ashamed of. It's your first year under Jeff Lebby. I don't think he's getting fired. They just hired him. Patience. Stay patient. Your time is coming to be competitive in the SEC. Rutgers and Illinois. I'm going to apologize to Illinois fans, first of all. I was wrong on y'all coming into the season. I said Bielema was on the hot seat, and I said you aren't going to win more than 6 games. I stand corrected, and now I'm going to make the announcement here. 2026, pains me to do this, I will be going to Ann Arbor for a Michigan game. That was a bet I made with all my subscribers before the season. If I got win totals wrong, I had to go to a Michigan game in 2026. Not looking forward to it, but have to live up to my end of the bet. Anyway, Illinois played really well in this game. Luke Altmaier, he's another guy I really dogged in the preseason. I didn't think he was actually that good, but it seems like if you give him the right coaching staff, Ole Miss, this could have been your heir apparent to Jackson Dart. But no, you decided to let him go and go to Illinois. And look what he's done at Illinois. And in Rutgers, 6-5. This is right around where I had you in the preseason. I think I have you going 7-5 or 7-6. So let's see. I'll let you go.
No, I agree on that. I think we both kind of had Illinois as one of the laughing stock teams in the Big Ten this year, and they've proved us both wrong. And have fun. And let me know how Ann Arbor is. I'm curious. That's one of my scenes I want to go to. And Rutgers, I mean, Greg Schiano, they're a middle of the pack team. Again, if they win Saturday, they'll have 7 wins on the season. They're a bowl eligible, so we'll see them in a bowl game. And if they win Saturday and then win their bowl game, they'll have an 8-win season. That'll be great for the Scarlet Knights. So yeah, I mean, both of these teams are middle of the pack teams in the Big Ten, and Illinois wanted it more this past Saturday than Rutgers did, and they're the victors in that game.
Maryland and Iowa. I'm going to say this. I think I was right with Maryland in the preseason. I said 5 to 6 wins. It's like I might hit that right on the. I might hit that win total, and it looks like Loxley. Even though people in the preseason wanted to say I was crazy for saying he was on the hot seat, I think he might get fired. So, but Iowa, nice win. Nice win, Iowa, and that's simple. 29 points. Good job. You scored more than 20. That's always the running joke with Iowa. Can they score more than 20 points?
Yeah, Iowa, as I've said many times, they're like the little bug that won't go away. You slap them away and they come back. So they're that type of team. And Maryland, again, like you said, I think their coach is on the hot seat to be fired. Wouldn't be surprised if that does happen. So yeah, just there's Iowa being Iowa.
Now we get to a game that I didn't think was going to be very entertaining, but it ended up being UConn and Syracuse. And UConn, we can't say they're a laughingstock in college football anymore. They are 7-4. Who thought that in the preseason?
I didn't.
I didn't either. Great win by Syracuse. But UConn, please reapply to join the American. We'd love to have you back. Now that all the big dogs are gone in the American, please come back just for football. We don't need you for basketball. We don't need you for any other sport. We just need you for football. And I think Bradley would agree with me.
Especially in women's college basketball. They are one of the premier programs in women's college basketball. But no, they had a pretty good rivalry with USF when they were in the American. But yeah, good for UConn. Again, you don't ever wish failure to any university. I mean, even the universities we don't like, you don't ever wish failure upon them. And I'm happy for UConn. They went independent. They're 7-4, and they almost beat Syracuse. Who would you call them a middle of the pack team in the ACC, or would you kind of say they're on the lower end of the conference? It's hard to say. The Orange,
with a first year head coach, so
yeah, it's hard to say. With them, it really is. But again, congrats to the Orange on the win. And stuff like that. UConn is going to be a bowl team. It's kind of interesting to see who they get to play against in the bowl game. If they surprise somebody, they may end up winning their bowl game. So we'll see.
North Carolina and Boston College. First of all, Boston College. Why? I understand that Thomas Castellanos stepped away from the team, but why did you let him go into the portal? He's going to go somewhere else now and have a great last 2 years of college. Why is Grayson James starting? Why didn't you let Castellanos start the entire season? But good win for Billy O in Boston College. Bowl eligible, which I did. I will say this. They were one of my sleepers. I had 3 sleepers in the ACC. They were one of them. There was Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech. And 2 out of the 3 actually lived up to being sleepers. Virginia Tech, I'm sorry. I appreciate the hospitality you gave me week 2, but you disappointed me as a sleeper in the ACC. Now, that's not saying that I won't go back to them again next year as a sleeper, because I do think they have promise. Even though people want to say, like I said earlier, that their coach is on the hot seat. I don't think he is. And then North Carolina. Why did you have to do Mac Brown dirty and fire? Why couldn't you just mutually agree to part ways at the end of the season and let him retire? I feel like that's a slap in the face. What do you think?
I agree with everything you said, but North Carolina is 6-5. You got one game left against NC State. I'm assuming that's who they're playing on Saturday. And you beat them. You're 7-5. You go to, and you let Mac walk away after the bowl game, especially if he ends up winning on Saturday and they win the bowl game. But if I was the team in general, the Tar Heels themselves, I would say, okay, the rest of the season we're going to win on Saturday. And we're going to win and we're going to dedicate it to Mac. Thank you, Coach Brown, for everything you've done for our program, bringing the program back out of the proverbial hell that they were in. And now I don't know what's going to happen at UNC now with him gone. So
here's another one that didn't really make a lot of sense. Jacksonville State, Sam Houston. Both teams are good, but I think the wrong team won here. Like I said, I think both teams are good, but I think Sam Houston let this game get away.
Well, it looks like, but it was a low-scoring game, 21-11. It could be a weather thing. I don't know, though. Jacksonville, Florida, nah, probably not.
No, that's Alabama.
That's Alabama? Okay. Yeah, I mean, maybe Sam Houston maybe they were underprepared or something went wrong during the game. I didn't get a chance to watch the game, so I don't know how it went.
Well, do you know who Jacksonville State's coach is?
Mm-mm.
Give you a hint. He used to coach in the Big Ten, where Sharon Moore currently coaches. And his nickname is Rich Rod.
Oh, Rich Rodriguez. Okay.
Yep. Which, I'm going to say this right now. Don't be surprised if he gets called about taking a bigger job somewhere.
Oh, probably. I wouldn't doubt that.
And same with the Sam Houston coach. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. It looks like it was a low-scoring game. I did watch it, and the weather seemed to, for a little part of the game, be a factor. But then towards the end, it cleared up. Liberty and Western Kentucky. This was one of my upset picks for a video I did last week. And I am so happy Liberty upset Western Kentucky. But Western Kentucky fans, nothing to be ashamed of. You're 7-4. You can finish 9-4 on the season if you win your last regular season game and your bowl game. Liberty, nothing to be ashamed of. Same thing. But you can finish with 10 wins. Let me know what you think.
No, I agree, Bud. Again, there's nothing to be ashamed about. I got to see Western Kentucky play the last few years because they played USF. So I got a chance to see them play. So nothing to be ashamed of. Like you said, they can win 9 games if they win Saturday and then they win their bowl game. So nothing to be ashamed about.
Now to the game that everybody said game day should be there because it's between two teams at the time that had one win. Florida State and Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern, congratulations. You got a hefty paycheck for coming to get that beaten by Florida State. Mm-hmm. Florida State fans, I hate to say it, you're going to probably get beat by Florida. Bad. And like Bradley has stated 2 or 3 times during the show today, Florida State fans, be prepared for Norvell to be fired on the field after the game. Do you agree with everything I said?
Oh, yeah. No doubt about that. I mean, so they got 2 wins. Congratulations. You got your second win of the season. Way to go, Knowles.
Bowling Green, Ball State. Ball State, you fired your head coach, Mike New, which I think I called earlier in the season. If I'm not mistaken, didn't I say that, Bradley? Didn't I say Mike New earlier in the season was going to be one of the first few coaches to get fired? Bowling Green. They were Actually, no, I'm wrong. It was Bowling Green. No, it was Toledo and Miami of Ohio in the MAC championship game for me. But I had in third place, I had Bowling Green, which, like I said earlier, there is a cluster, and we can look at the MAC we can look at standings around college football also after we're done with this, and we can look at the MAC, and we can try to decipher who's going to make the MAC championship game. Because I tell you, it's a whole bunch of, it's a cluster and a half with all the tiebreakers that could happen with conference record. But Bowling Green, congratulations on a 7-4 record. Probably going to go 8-4. Are you going to make the conference championship game? Wait and see. What's your
Yeah,
plate?
I agree. I agree with that. I think you were right. You talked earlier in the season that you thought that Ball State's head coach was going to get fired. Obviously, he did, and you can see what's been happening. And Bowling Green now sits on the doorstep of being in the MAC championship game. So win on Saturday, and then wait and see how the cards fall to see if you get in to the championship game.
Oh, Lord. Rice, UAB. Trent Dilfer, how do you still have a job? How? Please explain to me how you still have a job. I don't care that you beat Rice. Rice is terrible. Blumgren was fired. And I'm pretty sure Rice, that just means they can't, they've checked out. They're done. Here's your hotel card, hotel key card to Cancun. Because neither of you are going to a bowl game. Same with Ball State and Florida State. Here's your key card to Cancun. You're not going to a bowl game. Enjoy Cancun.
Well, my opinion on this is that's who USF plays this week. We play Rice on the road. That's our last game of the season, and I was happy that we were able to become bowl eligible, and I'm sure we'll talk about that game later on. But you're right. Again, Trent Dilfer doesn't seem to be the right fit to be a college coach. Again, as I said earlier, that I could hear him yelling across the sidelines at his players. I don't think he really is that type of coach that I would want to send my son to be coached by. And I won't be surprised if maybe they're waiting until the end of the year, even though they're not going to a bowl game, to let him go. If they hold on to him another year, and let's say they start off the season next year with a bad record, I think he gets fired before the end of the season. So
Middle Tennessee State. I know, New Mexico State and MTSU. Again, like I stated about Rice and UAB, New Mexico State, Middle Tennessee. Here's your key card to Cancun, to your hotel room in Cancun. Enjoy. Neither you're going to a bowl game. Enjoy. Have fun there. Maybe next year. That's all we can say about both those teams. Doesn't matter who won. That's our recap of that game.
Yep.
Now to a more interesting game. App State and James Madison. I had James Madison winning this game. I am sadly mistaken to have had them winning this game because App State won. And now if App State wins their last game, they get bowl eligible. Come on, App State. We want to see you in a bowl game. We want to see you beat somebody so we can say happy again. James Madison, nothing to be ashamed about. You're 8-3, and you're going to a bowl game. If you win your last regular season game, you're 9-3. You have a chance to go 10-3 without the benefit of probably making the conference championship game. Did I hit the nail on the head?
Yeah, I got to see App State last year in the Cure Bowl against Miami of Ohio in a very rainy Orlando day. And App State beat them. It's the first time I've ever seen a the paint, the logo on the middle of the field wash away. That's how much rain there was in Orlando that day. The logo washed away in the middle of the field. If hopefully App State does win their final game, and like you said earlier, James Madison, nothing to be. You could have a 10 win season. A lot of teams would love to have a 10-win season. Go for them. I hope James Madison does that.
Arizona TCU. Typical old-fashioned Pac-12 game. A lot of scoring, not a lot of defense. Does that about sum up TCU Arizona?
I would say so. Yep, all those points scored. Yep.
Now to a game where I'm happy to say that I had Kennesaw State winning. And I know we dogged on Kennesaw State earlier in the year, even though they beat Liberty. I think they're going to be a sleeper team next year in Conference USA. FIU is just, and I just found this stat out the other day. So you know all the teams that have the last name, all the Florida teams aside from USF and UF and Miami. So FIU, FAU, Kennesaw State. Well, Kennesaw State's not in Florida, but all the schools that have Owls in their name have fired their head coach. So Kennesaw State, Florida Atlantic, Temple is probably going to fire their coach. Rice has fired their coach. All the teams that have Owls in their name have fired their head coach. And Kennesaw State, like I just said, what a game this was. I watched it from beginning to end. Kennesaw State has a bright future. FIU, their coach is probably gone after the season. I think they're just waiting until the season is done to fire him. But what do you think?
No, I agree, bud, with everything that you said with them. FIU, they call themselves the University of Miami because they're actually in Miami, where Miami UM is actually in Coral Gables. So they call themselves Miami University because they're actually in the city of Miami. So that's the only bright thing about them, if you want to say that, living in the state of. So yeah.
ULM and Arkansas State. Simple here. Arkansas State's the better team. They won. And then we can say the same thing about South Alabama and Southern Miss.
Yep.
Of course, I do want to say this. I feel bad for Southern Miss fans. 1-10. What's the point of even going to games? Like, what's the point? You know every Saturday you're probably going to lose. So what's the point? Find something else to do on Saturdays. Until you get a better head coach. Oh, boy. Charlotte, FAU. I'll let you go first.
Well, Charlotte fires their head coach and they win the game after they fire their head coach. So that works out very well, doesn't it? FAU, I think FAU's, what are they, 3-8 this year? Charlotte's 3-8 too, or whatever they are now.
No,
4-7.
FAU's 2-9.
2-9. Okay. So again, these two teams, as Alex said, here's your ticket to the hotel. Have fun during the off season trying to rebuild. And if they do get Ray Lewis to go to FAU, I'm not sure what kind of head coach he is. I think it's just a name to draw kids to that program. They're not going to have the same success as they do at Colorado because the Buffaloes are a premier program. They have been in the past. FAU, good luck the rest of the way. And they have a rivalry with USF, so good luck the rest of the way, Owls.
Yep, that is spot on. I don't even have to say anything. Northwestern Michigan. Northwestern, why did you even show up? 6 points. You let Davis Warren throw for almost 200 yards. A guy that has played awful the entire season. And how many times have we talked about Michigan's quarterback situation on the show?
A bunch.
It feels like every week we talk about it. And if you're talking about one team's quarterback issue, almost the entire season, doesn't that tell you that? Doesn't that explain why they only have 6 wins and probably won't get to 7 this week? They might get 7 in their bowl game, but they're not going to get 7. And I was spot on when I said Michigan's going 7-5 because I don't think they beat 7-6 actually, because I don't think they're beating Ohio State unless somehow, and I know Michigan fans are going to come at me and say, "Oh, you need to stop complaining." Unless somehow you pay the referees to have you win the game because you're a 21-point underdog. And yes, that is accurate. I looked before we had the show today. They are a over 20-point underdog against Ohio State. So it would take a miracle and a half. And in Northwestern, see this? This is your key card to Cancun, to your hotel. Go enjoy the off season. I have a feeling that your coach is still going to be there next year, but you will have a better season next year. Can't say the same about all the other teams we've said. Oh, Southern Miss, same thing. Hotel key to Cancun. Enjoy. What do you have to say about Michigan or Northwestern?
No, Michigan, again, it's not an excuse, but every year, every team loses kids to the pro level, and obviously Michigan lost a bunch of people, and then that was the kind of the writing on the wall. You also lost your head coach to the pros as well, so no surprise. And again, Northwestern, they win a game here or there, but for the most part, they're not in the elite in the Big Ten. So no surprise that Michigan beat them by 44 points.
Nope. Nebraska, Wisconsin. Congratulations to Nebraska on breaking your bowl-eligible drought. Congratulations. Wisconsin, we need to have a conversation. How do you let Nebraska put up that many points on you? I thought your defense was good. Luke Fickell, what's this mantra I'm getting from Wisconsin fans? That, oh, Luke Fickell is a really good offensive and defensive-minded head coach. You proved me wrong by saying he's a good defensive-minded head coach. 44 points. And you let Raiola throw for almost 300 yards, but only 1 touchdown? I don't see it. But Wisconsin, if they win their last game, which I think is Minnesota, in a rivalry game, they can go to a bowl game. What do you think?
No, yeah, I mean, good for Nebraska. I know that program's been struggling for a long time, and Wisconsin's usually one of the blue bloods in the Big Ten. They're usually up there with the likes of Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan. This year, I guess it just didn't go their way. And so congratulations to the Cornhuskers on finally having a good season within the conference and getting to a bowl game.
Now we go to Stanford and Cal. And we both of us dogged on both Stanford and Cal as to why they joined the ACC in the preseason. Cal, congratulations first of all on making a bowl game. Stanford, why? Why did you even join the ACC? You're 3-8. I don't think your coach is getting fired, but he might start on the hot seat next year. What do you have to say?
Yeah, of course. If many people don't know, this is the famous band game from a long time ago. Um, but no, congratulations to Cal again. Sometimes when you change conferences, it goes well, and sometimes when you change, it doesn't go so well. And for Stanford, it hasn't gone that well since they've changed from the Pac-12 to the ACC. So again, like Alex said, you're okay for now, but if you get off to a bad start next season, your coach could be seeing a pink slip and be out of there.
Nah, this game, I picked Texas Tech to win, and I told everybody, at your own will, pick against Mike Gundy. And Texas Tech won. But before I go in, before I say anything about Texas Tech, Mike Gundy, I think it's time, man. I think you need to retire. Congratulations on a good coaching career in Stillwater at Oklahoma State. I love the quote you made a few years ago. I'm a man. I'm 40. That was my favorite quote from you, but I think it's time to hang it up. Texas Tech. I did not see this coming from you. Beating Oklahoma State, I thought you were going to lose. Then again, it's the Big 12. Should we expect less? Should we expect no defense and a lot of scoring? Yes.
No, I agree with you, bud. Maybe it is time for Mike Gundy to hang it up and retire and get some fresh blood in at Oklahoma State. Texas Tech, congratulations, So there you go with that. Again, the Big 12's a mess, so let's throw another wrench into the machine and see how it turns out.
I mean, what are the chances? Again, we are going to look at the standings after this is done, but what are the chances? If all those teams lose and Texas Tech wins, what are the chances they get in the Big 12 championship game? How crazy would that be?
Mm-hmm.
Utah State, San Diego State. As we both can see, neither of these teams are going to a bowl game. Congratulations on the win, Utah State. But like I've said, this whole segment, Utah State and San Diego State, y'all can join together. Here's your key card. Go enjoy your summer vacation / off-season vacation in Cancun. Georgia Southern and Coastal. I'm disappointed in Coastal Carolina. I thought they were going to be the ones in the Sun Belt Championship. Tim Beck, you have proved me right yet again that you are a terrible head coach. You are a terrible offense coordinator at Ohio State. You, sir, have earned your pink slip. I don't care that you've won 5 games and maybe win 6. I think you're going to get fired. Georgia Southern, congrats on a big win, even though you only put up 26 points. Where do you stand on this game?
I agree with you, but I think Coastal Carolina, who plays Georgia State this week on the road, by the way, so they can get to 6 wins because Georgia State's only got 3 wins on the year. No, yeah, congratulations to Georgia Southern on winning. And again, Coastal Carolina has been a disappointment, and like you said, maybe the writing on the wall, the pink slip might be coming soon for their head coach.
East Carolina, North Texas. I'll let you go first here.
Well, the Mean Green started off the season, well, and I think they have seen the writing on the wall. And I think East Carolina, who I think I may have dogged early on in the American, that I thought was going to be pretty bad.
May I chime in?
Go ahead.
We both dogged them. We both said they weren't going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe one of my subscribers was right in the preseason when I did my AAC tape, when I did my predictions for the AAC. Maybe that subscriber was right when saying, be careful what you wish for. Have you looked at who ECU got in the portal? And I said, yes, I don't think they're going to be good. And you even said it too. This is one where we have to say we were wrong.
Yep.
We were completely wrong. And just leave it at that. Now we get down to South Florida and Tulsa. I will go first on this one. Tulsa, I was almost spot on. I said they were going to win. I said they were going to go 5-7. But obviously, this was one where I'm happy I was wrong with their win total. They're 3-8. Kevin Wilson's probably going to be fired, and Ohio State fans want him back. Where are you going to put him on the coaching staff? Who are you going to get rid of? USF. This is the best Bryce Archie has looked since taking over as a starting quarterback. And Bradley can back me up on that because I think he was probably actually, I know for a fact he was at the game.
Yeah, I was. And like I said, Bryce looked good. He got injured late in the game, came out for a play or two, I think, or for a series, and he went back out there. He's okay. And Byram, I think, is on the verge of coming back. I don't know if they'll sit him out against Rice. They're not going to the American Championship game, obviously. We know that. USF's on the verge of winning 7 games. They only won 6 a year ago. If we beat Rice this week, which we should be able to beat Rice. We beat Rice last year. We actually beat Rice last year. It was our first FBS win in many years. we had or FCS or whatever. But yeah, that was our first win. And we put up 28 points in the first quarter. Kelly Joyner Jr. just blew the lid off the stadium. It was kind of cool as the game started at 3:30 to see them score a touchdown in the light and then score one in the dark. And then the stadium lights go off and the green goes everywhere. But again, Alex Golish comes in. This is the second year in a row the team has been bowl eligible. Obviously, Michael Kelly got that right. They're wearing stickers on the back of their helmets for our basketball coach that passed away at 46 years old from surgery complications. Mahir Rahim. So trust me, that campus and wherever you go for any sporting event on campus, his name is there, especially the basketball team because he was the basketball coach. But yeah, good luck to Tulsa the rest of the way. Hopefully USF. I have another buddy that has a network that wants me to call the South Florida game. Yes, I'll do that against Rice on Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, it was a blowout early on. I mean, yeah, Tulsa scored some points at the end of the game. It was kind of cool to be down on the field. I'm allowed to go down with 6 minutes left to stand by the student section and hear them cheer. And we were all cheering that they would score 70 points, but that didn't come to fruition. We were kind of hoping they would get another touchdown, but didn't happen. So yeah.
Okay, Arkansas. Can we say that we were both wrong on them too?
Yes, I agree with that because I think wasn't Arkansas's head coach on the hot seat to start the season?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm wrong about the Razorbacks.
We both are. Louisiana Tech, here's your card to Cancun and the hotel room. Enjoy. Same with Tulsa.
Yep.
Louisville, Pitt. Embarrassing for Pitt.
I agree.
How the mighty have fallen. They were undefeated, top 10 in the college football rankings, top 15. And all of a sudden, same with Louisville. Both teams, but they're going to a bowl game, so Oh boy. Troy. Here's your card to the lodge in Cancun. Enjoy. Lafayette. Congratulations on the win. 9-2. Don't know how you're not getting notoriety from the group of five for maybe being in the playoff. Then we've got, I think, 3 or 4 more games left. We get to Washington State and Oregon State. The Pac-2 championship game. What a game. That's simple. Doesn't matter who wins. It's sad to see the Pac-12, the lone Pac-12 teams left.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor and Houston. Baylor's another team that we were wrong on. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. Yeah.
And David Randa is another coach that has saved his job for this year. Houston, this is a building process for new head coach Willie Fritz. You can go 5 and if you win your last game, you're 5-7. That's a good start. But Houston, I'm sorry to say this. Here's your room key to your hotel room in Cancun. Have fun. Georgia State, same thing. Here's your key card to the hotel in Cancun. Have fun. Texas State, Georgia State. How embarrassing for Texas State to get beat by Georgia State.
Yeah, because Georgia State got their 3rd win of the season. So there you go.
Now, Marshall. Do my eyes see that right? Marshall's 8-3.
Mm-hmm. The Thundering Herd.
Oh boy. Oh, I'm ready for the utter display of nasty words from Marshall fans. Because you know how I've dogged on them the whole season. Marshall fans, I'm sorry. I guess that Virginia Tech game was just a blip. She looked awful against Virginia Tech, but I guess one game doesn't mess up your season. Congratulations, going 9-3, 8-3 with a chance to get 10 wins. I was wrong on your win total. I will take. That is why I'm going to Ann Arbor in 2026. I know I sound happy about it, but I'm not. And I know a Michigan fan, and I don't think he's watching the show, but I know he's going to comment after the show and say, I dare you to wear Ohio State stuff in Michigan territory. I'm sorry, Adam, that is not going to happen. I am not planning on going up there to get beat up. Nope.
Well, wait a minute. Adam, do you know his last name, just off chance?
Roberts.
Okay. Because I have an Adam on that's a host on my show, and he's also a Michigan fan, so that's why I thought maybe it was him.
No. Old Dominion, here's your ticket to Cancun. Shoo, bye. See you next year. No, we can't say I'd love to say that about Vanderbilt, but we can't. 8-5, 6-5 going to a bowl game. I mean, what's the chances they beat Tennessee?
Yeah, I don't know about that. It'll be closer than a lot of people will predict it to be, but Tennessee's just too good offensively for Vanderbilt's defense.
Virginia Tech. How and why do you do this to me? Put me through utter pain the entire season after I went up and saw you guys beat Marshall. And I thought you were for real. I guess not. But the bright side is if you beat Virginia, you get a bowl game. And you can still go 7-6.
Yeah.
And Duke fans, you have nothing to be ashamed of. 8-3. Manny Diaz. And I think we both had our doubts about Manny Diaz being a head coach again. Because it didn't work out in Miami. I take back everything I said in the preseason about Manny Diaz at Duke and how he was not going to last. Now, what do you think? Were you
No,
low on Duke?
I agree with that. And then again, if you look at it, usually people will tell you and that Duke is a basketball school, and it is. They still are a good basketball team in the ACC, one of the top programs in the country. But good on them. They have turned their football program around. I think North Carolina's their rival is the other one because North Carolina, again, they're more of a basketball school, not really well known for their football program. But this, the last few years, Duke and North Carolina have made some major moves forward with their programs in football. So congratulations. And I think Vautech will beat Virginia. I think they'll be fine. They'll be 7-6 at the end of the season. They'll win on Saturday, and whatever bowl game they get into, if they win, good on them.
Cincinnati, Kansas State. Cincinnati, can I ask you to do one thing so I get your win total right, please? Because in the preseason, Bradley and I both talked about how we didn't think Cincinnati was going to win more than 5 games. Please.
And that's where they stand now.
I beg you. I beg you. Check who they play in rivalry week.
Sure. Let's see here. They're Big 12. Let me see. Let's see who they got. Are they at home or are they on the road? Let's see. Big 12. They are playing at home against TCU.
Oh, come on. Come on, TCU.
6 o'clock kickoff.
Come on, TCU. Cincinnati, please, for me. With all my heart, I love the state of Ohio. I love Cincinnati. Please lose. Please lose to TCU. So both me and Bradley look smart for picking y'all to only win 5 games. Please, I'm begging you. Kansas State. Congratulations on the win. 41-15. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah.
Now we get to we got a couple more games. USC UCLA. As you can see, pathetic game. Boring. Lincoln Riley. Yes, the Battle of California. Lincoln Riley, why did you bench Miller Moss? I understand he struggled, but why did you bench him earlier in the season? This Maeva kid is not any better than Miller Moss. Miller Moss is good. Why did you bench Miller Moss? I mean, why did you bench Miller Moss? And now Miller Moss is in the portal. So he's going to land somewhere where he can start. And I'm going to laugh if he stays in the Big Ten. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. But what if he goes across the state of California and goes to UCLA?
I was just about to say that. That would stick it to your rival. You change addresses and say, "Oh, you didn't like me here? Okay, cool. I'll go to the rival, and I'll prove you wrong when I play against you."
But UCLA, I'm sorry. Here's your key card. Go enjoy Cancun. You'll probably like it better than Los Angeles.
Probably.
Air Force in Nevada. I'll let you go first.
Well, again, this if you look at the game, again, not a high scoring game. Combined 41 points. Air Force is not Army and Navy. I mean, obviously, you could see that. Um, and Nevada, so like Alec will probably say in a few minutes, both of them can take their key cards and go to Cancun and enjoy the off season. Air Force, not so much because I'm sure they're going to have to, get ready for battles or whatever moving forward in the military for the United States. But New Nevada, enjoy. Or Nevada, you can just stay at home and go to Vegas and call it a day, So you could,
If you
keep
want to.
Vegas. If you want to stay in Vegas, you can stay in Vegas instead of going to Cancun. But that's up to you. Maybe you like Mexico better than Las Vegas. So
Yes. Yes. You hit it right on the head, Bradley. Both these teams can go enjoy their offseason in Cancun. And the Air Force, the guys that are seniors, they can also go and enjoy Cancun because they don't have to worry about coming back and playing next year unless they're going to try to apply to go to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
In Nevada, I would highly recommend you go to Cancun because I don't think you want to stick around in Vegas. It is scorching hot there.
No, actually, it's cold there right now. It's cold
surprising. Okay. And the last game on the docket from last week is Fresno State, Colorado State. And again, you have first dibs.
Well, I mean, you look at the record. Both of these teams are bowl eligible. At the end of the day, Colorado State's played very well. I mean, they're 5-1 in the Mountain West. I think they do have a loss to Colorado. I think me and Alec both called that game earlier this season together. Congrats to Fresno State. Obviously, now you're going to have the chance to be 7-5 at the end of the year, and the Rams can go 9-4 if they win their last two games.
Spot on. I don't really have anything to say about that. Now, let's get to our thoughts and opinions on the rankings and the college football playoff rankings. Here we go. So we're going to start with the college football playoff poll. And we're going to go CFP rankings, week 13. Oh. Okay, so the week 13, but we're going to try to predict. We're going to try to figure out. So the top three is obviously going to stay the same.
Yes, I agree.
Do they move Penn State down, even though they won?
I would say probably not because Indiana lost to Ohio State. So probably not. There's probably I would see the only team, Bud, that would move up would be Notre Dame. Even though I know they beat Army, and I know Army's not Indiana, Penn State, but I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame moves up one or two spots.
How far does Indiana drop?
I'd say maybe down, Bud, to 6. They move down to 6. Penn State stays at 4. Notre Dame moves up to 5. They drop down one spot. That would be my opinion on that.
I agree with you on that. How far do they how far do they drop Alabama?
I'd say Alabama probably falls out of the top 10. Like you said earlier, when we both said that losing to Oklahoma probably wasn't the greatest thing, and a team that they should have beat. And again, they have Auburn this week, so I wouldn't be surprised if they drop out of the top 10.
Does Miami move up?
I would say yeah, because Alabama moves down.
Ole Miss, how far did they drop?
I'd say they drop a couple spots, so like 11 or 12, because they lost to Florida.
Georgia, how far did they move up?
I'd say 1 or 2 spots. They move up.
Boise State is the big one. Tennessee. How far do they move up?
Tennessee's going to move up 1 or 2 spots. Boise State, I think, will move up at least 2 or 3, most likely, with their win over
And then
Wyoming.
SMU.
SMU may stay either there or move up a couple spots. Again, they're already in the ACC championship game. So, if they win that game, they're in the playoff anyway. So,
And then the clutter that is at BYU, Texas A&M, Colorado, Clemson, South Carolina. How far do those teams move up?
see, BYU, Texas A&M, Colorado all lost. Clemson and South Carolina both won. So I could see BYU dropping a spot. That was a close game against Arizona State, who is ranked. A&M and Colorado probably fall down 1 or 2 spots, and Clemson and South Carolina go up a couple spots. Well, Wolford, maybe not. Maybe they stay where they're at. But yeah.
How far does Arizona State move up?
I'd say at least in front of Army, definitely, but in front of Army because they lost to Notre Dame. I don't know if they move past Tulane, even though I know Tulane had a bye week. They're in the championship game against Army in a couple weeks. So, yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about the AP poll and how utterly disgusting it is. Let me get your opinion first. How do you think? Do you think they did a good job with the top 3?
Yeah, I think the top. I mean, you obviously can't put Ohio State ahead of Oregon because Oregon beat them head to head, and I don't think Texas has played in the. I don't know if they played Big Ten teams this year. I think they beat Michigan. But other than that, yeah, I think the top 3 are pretty solid in my opinion. I don't think there's going to be much.
What about
now? When you have Ohio State, Oregon playing in the Big Ten championship game, we'll see.
This is the AP poll. This isn't the playoff.
Okay. Yeah, the top 3 are right. I don't think there's a problem with the top 3.
What about 4 through 7?
No, I agree with that. I mean, Penn State's there. They've only lost 1 game, and that was the number 2 team in the country. And Notre Dame had a big win. Georgia had a cupcake game. They're going to have a test this week, and then Tennessee's going to have a test this week too with Vanderbilt.
What about 8 through 13?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Miami's, they're on the verge of being in the A. I did not know this, that the Hurricanes have never won the ACC in football. I did not know that. The other day I heard that on the broadcast. Yeah, I agree with the 8 through 13.
And then we go 14 through 20.
14 through 20. Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss lost. South Carolina's there. They beat Wolford. Yeah, I could agree with those. And then A&M's got a tough contest against Texas this week.
And 21 through 25.
I agree with those. I mean, Colorado lost. They have a game this week, and Army's right there on the verge of. If Army can pull off an upset over Tulsa or Tulane, they'll be in the playoff.
Okay, so I'm going to give my opinion now, and then we're going to look at the conference standings and determine in the Big 12 who will make the conference championship game. So I agree. The top 3 is kind of set it and forget it. Penn State should not. I'm sorry. I know they lost by a touchdown to Ohio State, but like we mentioned earlier, they barely beat Minnesota. A 10-1 Penn State should demolish Minnesota. And they didn't. They only beat them by a point. I think Notre Dame should have been in front of Penn State. And I think Georgia should be. I think it should go Notre Dame ahead of Penn State, Georgia ahead of Penn State, and Tennessee ahead of Penn State. And then Miami. They're also kind of frauds because we've seen how many times this year they've gotten lucky. And Miami fans, you can talk all the mess you want about me and how I'm wrong, but the ACC has bailed you out numerous times. That is the only reason you're 10-1. You should be 9-3 or 8-4. If the ACC doesn't bail you out, you're 8-4 at best. SMU, you get your milk and cookies because you've been really good this year. Indiana, like we said earlier, nothing to be ashamed of at all. Boise State, same thing. You've been really good this year. Alabama, and I know I'm going to get something in the comment section from an Alabama fan. You do not deserve to be ranked. After all, other than the Tennessee loss, your other two losses are embarrassing. Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, yikes. Arizona State should be ranked higher than Alabama. Ole Miss, they're fine where they are, same as South Carolina. Iowa State, same thing. Tulane, I'm on the fence whether they should be higher or they're fine where they are. BYU, you lost to Arizona State, who's ranked. Okay. You should be on the cusp of being out of the rankings. Texas A&M, you only lost by 2, so I guess you're fine where you are. UNLV, perfectly fine where they are. Illinois, absolutely they should be there. Colorado lost, so they're fine where they are, I guess. Missouri, fine where they are. Army, same thing. Actually, I take that back. Army should be ahead of Missouri. Missouri should be the one at 25, not Army. Because Missouri has some bad losses this year and some wins that they should have won by more. And now we're going to look at the Big 12 standings to determine who we think in this clutter of utter chaos, who's going to win the Big 12. So, oh, no. So, Bradley, I'll let you go first. Arizona State, BYU, Iowa State, and Colorado, all 6-2 in conference. Which of those two teams do you think will be in the Big 12 title game?
I'm going to go with the Cyclones and the Buffaloes.
Okay. I'm going with Arizona State. In Big 12, you would be fools not to give Kenny Dillingham Coach of the Year. I think it's either Kenny Dillingham or Coach Prime for Coach of the Year in the Big 12. Or maybe Dave Aranda. But that's another video that's another talking point for another video. But anyway, I think it's going to be Arizona State and Colorado. So, and then now we finish off the video with our playoff bracket predictions. And Bradley, you can go first.
All right, let me go there and look at it real quick. What they have so far. I think if the playoff started today, let's see what it would be. Well, I guess it's hard to determine because we haven't had.
This is our predictions.
Okay. Okay, let me get to the template here, and I'll be able to give you my insight on it. Let's see. Here, let's do this. There it is. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so let's do this. All right, so obviously, so it would be what? It would be the 5 versus 12, and then the top 4 teams that win the conferences, right? The Power
Yeah.
4 that win the conferences. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm going to say Oregon wins the Big 10, Texas wins the SEC. I'm going to go on a limb and say SMU beats Miami in the American, or I mean in the ACC, excuse me. And which conference am I missing?
The Big
Which
12.
conference am I missing? Oh, Big 12. And I'll take Colorado over Iowa State. So those would be I would have Iowa State, Oregon, Texas, and SMU with the buys. Is that right? Is that am I following that
Yes.
correctly? Yeah. Okay. Um, I think the team that wins the American will be Army. I think they upset Tulane, and that's just me going out on a limb. I can see Notre Dame getting in as well because they're independent. I'm looking at the teams that are eligible. Let's see. I'm going to say Boise State because they'll win their conference. They'll win. Isn't it Mountain West, right? Is that what conference they're
Yes.
in?
Mountain West.
I'll take them. I'll take them. So who do I have now? I have here we go. Here all right. So I have Oregon. Yeah. So I have Oregon, Texas, SMU, and Colorado being the 4 there, and then I have so yeah, Ohio State still will make it, even if they lose the Big Ten championship game. I don't think that they're not going to make it. I also think Georgia and Tennessee will both be there. Notre Dame and Indiana. I think those are my. Is that right? Is I have 12 now? I think I have 12 teams.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
those
then
are my 12.
and then what I did for mine is I did that. Then I did the first round matchup, second round,
Okay.
final 4. So give me your first round, second round.
I'll take Ohio State, Iowa State in the first round matchup. I'll take the Buckeyes in that one. Um, I think I picked Georgia, Tennessee, right? Did I pick both of those teams to make it? I'll take Tennessee in an upset, even though I would hate to see that happen. Notre Dame, Indiana. I'll take those two. I like Indiana to win, and then that leaves SMU and who else did I have?
No,
No,
that would leave.
I have SMU in.
Oh,
I have Miami. I have Miami. Miami and who?
Boise State.
Okay, so I'll have Miami and Boise State, and I'll take the Broncos in an upset. So
Okay, so your second round games then would be Ohio State and Oregon in the second round. If I'm correct.
I'll take Ohio State because I don't think Oregon can beat them 3 times. So I'll take the Buckeyes in that one.
Okay, then then you had Tennessee. No. Yeah, Tennessee and was it SMU?
Yeah, SMU. So I'll take Tennessee in that game.
Then you had Boise State and Miami.
I'll take Boise State in that one. Yeah.
So then your final 4 is Boise State, Ohio State, and Miami and Tennessee.
Correct.
So who do you got in those 2 games?
I could see Ohio State, Tennessee in the national championship game.
Who wins the national championship?
The Buckeyes, obviously. I don't want Tennessee to win a national championship.
My playoff bracket predictions. I've got my top 4. I think Ohio State wins the Big Ten. I think Texas wins the SEC. As much as it pains me to do, I think Miami wins the ACC. And Arizona State wins the Big 12. Then 5 through 12. I've got Notre Dame at 5, Oregon at 6, Penn State at 7, Indiana at 8, Tennessee at 9, Georgia at 10, Boise State at 11. And I do think there's still an outside shot. Alabama gets in at 12. So my first round matchups. 5 seed Notre Dame versus the 12 seed Alabama. Alabama wins 45-24. 7 versus 10. Penn State, Georgia. Penn State upsets Georgia 54-48. Then I've got the 6-11 matchup between Oregon and Boise State. And I think Oregon wins 59-14. And then you've got Indiana and Tennessee in the 8-9 matchup. And I think they will be zero defense. I think Indiana wins 54-53. So my second round matchups are Ohio State, the 1, Indiana, the 8, and I think Ohio State stomps them again, 54-14. Then you've got Arizona State and Alabama. And unfortunately for Arizona State, I think this is where their dream season ends. Alabama 54-38. Then you've got the 3 seed Miami and the 6 seed Oregon. I think Oregon upsets Miami 55-54. Then you've got Texas and Penn State. 2 versus 7. And I'm going to take Texas 55-40. And then the third round, the final 4. Ohio State, Bama, Texas, Oregon. I've got Ohio State 31-21 over Bama. And Oregon 52-42 over Texas. And I think it's going to be Ohio State, Oregon in the national championship game, just like it was in 2014 for the first national championship game. And I think Ohio State wins the national championship 54-40 over Oregon.
Okay.
And that is going to do it for today's episode of the podcast. We will see you back here at 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon for another episode of the College Football Podcast. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Tuesday. Have a great rest of your day, Bradley.
You too, buddy. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.